Welcome back to another podcast. Today I have Tony again for round two. And today we're going to be talking about life-related things. Well, business too, but We're going to talk about what is man versus woman, maybe a little bit.
It's controversial.
Yeah. We'll talk about purpose or calling on one's life and a little bit of like life strategy. It's going to be more like a discussion, like brainstorming, almost kind of a thing. And then we'll go from there and see what else comes up.
Sounds good. Thanks for having me back.
Yeah, so great having you. You definitely have a lot of ideas, a lot of thoughts, a lot of things. So it's gonna be a good discussion.
I appreciate that. Yeah, I think a lot. Unfortunately, I can't turn my brain off. That's what my wife always says. Like, we'll be trying to hang out or even relax at night, and I'll last like 10 minutes, and then I'm just kind of like doing a little bit of work or reading. She's like, "Really, you can't stop?" I'm like, "No, not really."
Yeah. Right.
So
let's just delve into it. So as far as man in American society, it seems like if we go back to pre-1980s or 1980s and then into 2000s and 2020s, it seems like the man of back then is different or is viewed differently than what a man is today. And what I mean is, like, let's say 1980s or before that, a family had a father who would be working, who would be the sole provider, and the wife would be at home taking care of the home, the children, and so on. And then we go into like 1990s, 2000s, where now you have dual income families where both the mom and the dad work, and there's babysitters and all that kind of stuff. And then we come to basically today, where it seems like there's I don't know how to even phrase it. There's like this
reversal.
Yeah, well, reversal and perversion in a way of a man. It's like, okay, a man now is a person who puts on lipstick or something like that. Like I mean, that's like going way out, right?
Yeah.
But the point is, like, today it seems like what society is celebrating is a demasculated kind of a man, right?
Yeah.
Like you
masculinity is bad,
right? Like toxic masculinity
it's toxic to
and
be
all
a
that
man.
stuff. So what are your thoughts on that? Like, where we have gone as a society from, before 1980s to now? Like, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, it's funny. So this is probably one of the most discussed topics that me and my wife have, like, throughout every day. Because we work in retail, and we also obviously live on the internet, and so we see this happen every day. We primarily, like, we work in a primarily conservative area, so we see primarily conservative people who do share similar values. But so we have this discussion a lot with them, because our customers will sometimes just sit with us and stay there for an hour, and we'll chat, and inevitably politics come up, inevitably everything comes up. And manhood and womanhood, I mean, it's definitely changed. And I think that, there's two ways of looking at it. You got the worldview, and then you got to look at, if you're a believer, like us, like, okay, so as a believer, I have to look at what God has to say about it, and what society says about it is much different now. Mm-hmm. I mean, back in the day, I can understand both sides to a degree. Like, back in the day, a man was a sole provider. Man went to work, worked the coal mines, did a hard job, worked 10, 12, 14-hour days. But he made enough money to where the wife would stay at home, take care of the kids, raise the kids, discipline the kids, keep the house clean, cook. That's a full-time job times 3. It's and I feel like, so that was a respectable thing, It was a standard thing. And then you fast forward to kind of to today, it's like the notion of a woman staying at home and taking care of kids, it's disrespectful, and they're angry about it. And then, we can do what you can do. It's like, no one's saying you're inferior. In fact, I wouldn't be able to stay home and take care of kids and do what a mom does. Like, I wouldn't be able to do it. It's a lot. It's your constant grind. And I feel what's happened though is, the 2 household income, unfortunately now it's kind of necessary with the way the economy is. But if you go before the necessity part of it, when the economy was good and people still had 2 incomes, I've seen personally it ruin a lot of kids. Mm-hmm. I've seen a lot of kids struggle because, again, they're not spending that much time with mom or dad, right? And so mom and dad would kind of drop them off at some babysitter, maybe some relative's house, and they would bounce around between babysitters, maybe in after-school activities, maybe grandma's house. And so there wasn't a consistent teaching, right? You do that once, it's fine. Twice, it's fine. 10 years in, I have cousins who for 10, 15 years were bouncing around between, a mom and dad, because mom and dad are working 60 hours a week. Mom and dad made a lot of money, collectively making over $600,000 a year, which is fantastic. But the kids are spoiled brats, and at the same time, they were being taught and disciplined by 10 different people.
Mm-hmm.
And so, I see them personally, and they weren't the greatest people. And I don't blame them, right? They didn't really have that structure. And then you look at today's society, it seems like more kids are crazy than ever, and more people are crazy than ever. I think it seems, maybe it's because social media kind of like blew up and puts an emphasis on everything, but it feels and seems like we have more problems than ever with discipline, with respecting each other, and saying things like, hey, I believe a man should provide, and I think a man should do X, Y, Z. It's like all of a sudden you have some people will just start yelling at you saying, how dare you? It's like, it's not a bad thing. I'm saying that's a good thing. And men have qualities inherently in them that women don't, and vice versa.
Yeah. Yeah. So what is, what is the difference between a man and a woman?
Ooh, man. So I guess it depends, right? Biologically, not going to answer that. No.
Right. I mean,
yeah.
There's
obvious
differences, but like in the not so obvious
I think let's say we're going to look at it in a family role, because, this is mainly family related, and everyone effectively has a family. In a family, I think that if you go about it from a biblical standpoint, right, a man, even not even biblical, but just a man typically, inherently, biologically is a stronger individual physically, usually. So he provides, right? He protects the family, keeps them safe in the event things go south, safe from anything. He earns the money. He guides the woman, right? The Bible says a woman is the helper. It doesn't mean she's inferior. She's, the right-hand man, right? Just like when Jesus said, hey, I'm bringing you a helper. I'm leaving you a helper, the Holy Spirit. The Holy Spirit is God himself, right? He's one of the three entities that God takes. So God the Father, God the Son, God the Spirit. And so when he said, my helper, he's not saying he's inferior. So, it feels like today's society, when you say, yeah, my wife is my helper, the Bible says she is the man's helper, they're like, oh my goodness, she's inferior. That's what you think? Not at all. In fact, that's equal. It's just a different title. She's responsible. I think sometimes a woman probably has even more responsibilities than a man, because she's, raising the child, right? Like how that child, the Bible says, if you raise up the child in the way of the Lord, and they will not stray from it. Well, a man can't really raise the child when he's at work for 10 hours a day. So that's the mom's job. But so when dad comes home, now it's dad's turn to, kind of double check. Maybe he has to do a little bit of discipline, because mom's like, hey, Timmy gave me a rough time today. So I think there's clear roles there.
So in a way, we can look at it in terms of like a corporate structure, or like CEO versus COO, right? Like,
yeah,
you have like a visionary and you have the operator.
Absolutely.
So it doesn't mean one is better than the other. They just have distinct roles. One focuses on one set of things within the business, and the other on other
That's actually a perfect way of looking at it, right? Yeah, because everyone's got their strengths. I mean, and just naturally, like, I'm not a 6'5", 300-pound linebacker. Like, why don't I play football? Why am I not a professional, basketball player? Like, because I'm physically not capable. Like, I'm just not that person. But so, yeah, it doesn't mean I'm better or worse than anyone. It's just like, okay, so I'm born in such a way where certain strengths, certain skill sets, I'm going to play to the strengths. And traditionally, they say, women are typically more empathetic, right? They're more able to handle someone's emotions. We're not exactly great at emotions, where it's like, oh, sorry, that hurt. Suck it up. Get up and walk it off. Like, it is what it is. Like, that's just how you do it. And maybe that's a byproduct of that's how we were raised, but that's just how men are typically. Whereas women, would be like, oh my gosh, and kneel down and grab the knee and blow on it and kiss the knee and then grab the Band-Aid, and and they do a lot better at that. So is one better or worse than the other? No, just that's a skill set, like you said.
Yeah. So again, the pendulum is kind of swinging one way and the other way. So we went from men being kind of men, strong, the ones that provide for the family, protectors, and so on, then to men being very feminine. And it seems like now with like countercultural celebrities or influencers like Andrew Tate or Andy Elliott or even like Patrick Bet-David or others, where they're bringing that pendulum back to the middle with like, no, men really need to be men. But with that, how much of that are they overcorrecting as well? Like Andrew Tate's like, like this kind of alpha male, or what are they, like top G or whatever.
Yeah,
like
what color's your Bugatti?
Yeah, stuff like that. So how much are they overcorrecting versus just correcting to where it should be?
Yeah, it's a good question. I mean, I've thought about that. You're 100% right, right? It seemed at one point in society it was somewhat normal. We understood there were roles and it worked. And then so now you had this period where men were no longer men, women are no longer women, and it's like it's almost like a state of confusion. And then now you have these guys, like you said, who are coming in saying, let's set the record straight. A man's supposed to be X. I think there's a little bit of overcorrection. I think Andrew Tate's probably the most, and then I mean, he's doing it, I think, because he knows it's going to get views, and it's made him extremely wealthy. But I think it's a little bit much, but it's needed. I think it's a good reminder, like, hey, a man should be strong. He should, and it's not just a matter of like physically strong so you can beat someone up, but just be strong emotionally as well, where you can withstand whatever comes your way. Where if something happens, where whatever, like truck ran through your house, and then all of a sudden you're at the same time your insurance lapsed, and now you have nothing. Can you be stoic? Can you guide your family and say, all right, look, disaster happened. Let's look at the facts and what can we do from here? And I think they're doing a good thing, but perhaps a little bit much. I think.
Yeah, it just seems like maybe there's a little bit more emphasis than needed on being kind of that defender, like like, oh, I'm going to do anything, like. I don't even know how to phrase it, but
yeah, I mean, I think there's a
like the macho man, like
I think a lot of it at this point it definitely clicks and views, right? They're seeing that's what makes them more viral. Like if you look at Andrew Tate or any of these guys, their most viral clips are the ones where they say the wildest things. And so I think a part of them is like, all right, well, yes, we may believe this, but you know what? If I say this is more controversial. It's going to get more clicks, more likes, more shares, more comments.
So it's probably more of that strategy rather than them kind of really being on that side. It's more of the strategy of marketing.
I think so. I think it's a marketing strategy. But then you also kind of look at Jordan Peterson. He's kind of. I would say Jordan Peterson seems to be more level-headed. I mean, he's a little bit older, so obviously I think he's just him being a psychologist clearly knows how to speak, and so he says things in a way where it's maybe a little bit controversial, but it's not. But controversial enough to where it does get people to comment and be like, you're crazy, and then he's like, thanks for the algorithm boost, appreciate it, you're only getting my content out more, which is always funny to me. It's like, always like, if you don't like that person's content, just ignore it. No, they'll comment, and it's like, you only boosted their algorithm. Like, good job, the person you hate, you just gave them money, basically.
Yeah, Jordan Peterson actually I would say he's a good example of bringing this topic, this kind of concept back to the middle rather than overcorrecting. I feel like he talks about being more aggressive. I think one of the talks I heard him talk about being aggressive, but not like in a overly corrective, negative way.
Yeah. He handles it with grace to a degree. I think he's he's aggressive, but he's telling it as it is, right? He's just like, no, that's not factual. So I can't point out anything in particular, but when I listen to people call him out and they'll make some sort of crazy claim, and you said XYZ, he's like, no, hang on, I'm going to pause you right there. It didn't say that, and this is what I said. And so he's not like letting it become like a giant Twitter feud, essentially, where like, yeah, I'm going to let you say your piece and you freak out and yell, and then I'm going to respond yelling back. He's just like, I'm going to stop you right there. I'm going to set the record straight.
Yeah, so there are people out there that are more controversial by design. So they're more, they love getting into an argument, and then there are people who don't like confrontation and arguments, right? And I feel like Jordan Peterson, I mean, he definitely doesn't mind arguing with people in a logical way, but he's not like this kind of dominant personality where he's going to go seek out an argument somewhere just to have it.
No,
right?
I don't think so.
Versus like Andrew Tate, it seems like he's just gonna speak his mind. He's gonna, doesn't matter who he like walks all over or whatever.
Yeah, he'll enjoy. He'll go out of his way to like start fighting.
Yeah,
but I think it also has a little bit of to do with like the youth. So, a lot of these guys, even like Patrick Bet David, say the same thing. Like it depends on you. I guess whenever you're at a certain age group, it's almost like risk tolerance.
Mm-hmm.
The older you get, like Jordan Peterson, a little bit older, he's like, do I really want to kind of have this fight? Is it really necessary? Where Andrew's like, I'm young, like I don't care, I got time, and it's a youth thing to a degree.
So it's an age or youth thing as well as a personality thing. I think that combining
it's a
both
mix.
elements.
And it's like all things, right? It's not just one thing. It's like people want that, so society wants so badly to like define things like this is the way. It's like, sure, but there's 8 billion people on the planet, and we happen to live in a country that is the biggest melting pot of all time. You know, there's going to be a little bit of flex. You got to be flexible. You can't just, this is it, and like zero conversation. You know, I have my beliefs, like you have your beliefs, and we're pretty firm in them. But it doesn't mean I'm not going to at least entertain a conversation with someone. Whereas I feel like society today is like, I'm firm in my belief, and forget you, man. We're not going to have this conversation. You don't believe in I believe in, we're done. It's like, got to have a conversation. If you can't have a conversation, what's the point?
Right. So what do you think today, how can a man be the leader that he needs to be?
I think if you don't know how to, I think it's important to, I mean, just like anything else in life, you practice, but don't practice yourself. So one of my favorite sayings in life is like, a smart man learns from his own mistakes, but a wise man learns from the mistakes of others. So you have the internet, you have everything in the world you need to know and you could ever learn in your hand. Search, you know, go on YouTube, go listen to podcasts about how to be a man. What does a man look like? You know, as far as whether it's in a family, whether it's in a business aspect, as a friend. So I think you start there. It's like listening to different people, right? You have to listen to different perspectives. You can't just like find one person. All right, I like Jordan Peterson, and I'm gonna watch every podcast he's ever had in the last decade. And if you do that and consume all that straight, then yeah, you're gonna be biased, and it may or may not be good information. So you gotta just first start with, you know, learning from other people who've already done it, especially who, you know, if you're younger, if you're a teenager or in your 20s or even in your 30s and you're not really sure, start there. But also, I mean, I would say if you're not involved in a church, go to a church, because chances are you're going to run into people there who are family men who have 3, 5, 8 children, and maybe they're all participating. You know, we have a family in church who, she was on your podcast. Well, he doesn't go to our church, but Vienna, you know, got like a bazillion kids, and they're all awesome, and they're all like got their head on straight, and they sing together, they play instruments, they're artists just like dad, they're all intelligent, but you look at how he does it, and he's very, very intentional with his time. So it's like, hey, go seek out people who've done it, just like you would, you know, if you're starting a new business or you're going into a new industry, seek out people who are experts in that industry and befriend them, right? Hey, I want to learn. Hey, I want to learn how to be a great dad. How are you, you know, how are your kids so disciplined? How are all your kids on stage singing with you? What'd you do? Simple. And it's the funny thing. It's the simplest answer. It's just seek out people who've already done it.
Right. It actually leads into the next topic, purpose and calling. And in the way it leads into it is you kind of have to know what you want in order to figure out how to get there. Like,
yeah.
In order to know what kind of a leader or how to be a great leader, you need to know what is a great leader.
Yeah.
So kind of transitioning to that, is there such a thing as a purpose or a calling? Does it even exist? Or is it something kind of we make up?
Yeah, I think there is. So it's funny you say this, because one of my, man, how long was it? Maybe 11 years ago or so, in our church, we had an issue where we had standard church service for the adults, we had youth group for the teenagers, we had Sunday school for the kids, but then when kids were between the ages of 12 and 15, we had a gap. They had no special service for them, so once they graduated Sunday school, they would go to the main service and sit. Problem was, most of them weren't great at understanding Russian or Ukrainian. There's a Russian-Ukrainian church, so speaking church, and so they were kind of like, they're in church, but not really participating, not really learning much, because there's a huge language barrier. And of course, you know, being a kid, it's hard to sit still. It's hard to sit still for adults. And so there came a point where my youth pastor came up to me. He's like, hey, we have a problem. We have all these kids that are sitting in church. They're not participating. They're not learning. They're getting itchy. They're squirmy. We need to start a teens group for them. So we need to have a we called it junior high at the time, and now it's teens. We need a place for them to learn specifically with kids of their own age group. And I was like, yeah, that sounds great. He's like, all right, great, you're in charge. I was like, I don't know the first thing about kids. So anyway, fast forward. So we started this teens group, and so I did that for about 4 or 5 years, and loved it. Took a break a little bit past after marriage, and then it's been several years, and got busy with business, and then COVID happened, and next thing you know, it's 5 years later, and I'm like, oh, that's I'm gonna get back into it. And so I reached out to the guy who is currently running that same department that we founded, and he's like, man, I'm so happy you reached out because I've been wanting for you to get back in. Like, yes, please join in. So I came back, I attended, and then I was just like praying to God. I'm like, what do I say? What do I teach? I don't know. It's been a while. I want to, if I'm going to say something, it needs to be good. Obviously needs to be impactful. We only have an hour with the kids a week. Whatever it is, it needs to just be good. And so then he gave me the idea of, you need to teach these kids how to preach. You need to teach them how to be evangelists, essentially. And when I say preach and be an evangelist, I'm not saying like go out there and be a street preacher and get a sign and be like, Jesus is coming or you're going to hell. But it's just like in your daily life, in all you do, you have to exude Christ. You have to exude love and everything he stands for and everything you do. And so it's like, okay, get in it. Okay, so we need to teach them how to be evangelists. And so then, like as I'm reading, studying for this, I get this message like, this is the purpose of life. And I was like, interesting. So I'll actually read it. So to answer your question, a long answer, is I started this with the guys, with the group, and I was realizing, I'm like, what we, as a society, we struggle with often. We say, what's the purpose of life? And you have all these scientists and philosophers and athletes and celebrities and famous people, and everyone's like, what's the purpose of life? What's the purpose of life? And it just kind of dawned on me. Obviously, my answer is going to differ from someone who's a non-believer, but when you think about it, it just makes sense. And it's written in Matthew's 28 verse. It's the very last chapter of Matthew. So this is the last thing that Matthew wrote in, or the verse 18. So the last 3 verses. He says, and Jesus came to them and spoke unto them, saying, all authority has been given unto me in heaven and on earth. Go therefore and make disciples of all the nations, baptizing them in the name of the Father and of the Son and of the Holy Spirit, teaching them to observe all things whatsoever I commanded you, and lo, I am with you always, even unto the end of the world. And what he's saying is like, hey, he started the conversation with, all authority has been given to me, just letting people know, like, I'm in charge. I'm allowed to do anything and everything, and I'm telling you what you need to do is you go out and preach and make disciples. And so it's like, yeah, that's our purpose in life. That's go out and preach and make disciples. Now, to each individual person, that is going to be a little bit different, because you look at how Apostle Paul talks about it, like, hey, we all have different gifts. Some people can do X, Y, Z. Some are preachers and teachers and evangelists and healers and so on and so forth. And so I think what's happened, at least in my life, growing up in a conservative Slavic community that like just emigrated to the U.S. and we're kind of figuring things out and still kind of got some PTSD from the USSR, rightfully so. Just very they played it safe, rightfully so. You came from communism and you were imprisoned or killed for your faith, and so they came here and they kind of just like. So we kind of grew up a little bit on the conservative side, I would say, and so when you were taught though, like you need to be an evangelist, you need to be a preacher, and so it was a hard line of you're either a preacher or you're nobody. Mm-hmm. And it kind of seemed like maybe it was an unspoken rule, but it kind of seemed like when you were growing up in a Slavic church, you were either going to be a preacher or you were really nobody, and and that was kind of almost embarrassing, kind of almost type of thing. And it's like, no, you can serve in any way, fashion, even down to what you would call the simplest thing, which would be a door greeter, right? Which people say, oh, greeting people at the church door is like such a basic thing. No, I mean, on the contrary, you're the first face that person sees when they come into the church. You're setting the tone, you're setting the standard. They may have just, like, you've heard jokes people say on the, getting ready to go to church with the family, and then you're just like spanking the kids in the car and yelling, like, come on, we gotta go. Open the car door and you're in your suit and tie and you're like, hallelujah. And you walk into church, like, all peacefully. Obviously, there's high tension, so it's like the door greeter or the person in the parking lot, like, hey, you're setting the tone. You're kind of hopefully going to help them remember or forget about the problems that just happened that morning. It's like, hey, you're in a place where we all have the same purpose. We're here to serve and learn from God and hear from the Word of God. And so, the purpose, I think, for us as believers is to spread the Word of God and spread His joy, spread His peace, spread His message. And that's just in everything you do. You do things in such a way where, I've had it happen to me before, thank God, like when people go, what? Like, they're like, you're a Christian, aren't you? And I'm like, what do you mean? They're like, yeah, based on how you just did things, like I can tell you went above and beyond. I'm like, well, yeah, that's how I was taught. I was taught to do things as if I'm doing it for God Himself. So, in every area of our lives, we try to excel. We do pretty well in business for that reason, because every customer, I try my best. I'm not perfect at it, but I try my best to treat them with dignity and respect. And it's like, hey, as if this is, my own grandma walking into the store and has a problem, and I'm going to treat her. And I try to teach my staff the same way and try to just teach the same principles. Even if I may not preach to my staff, like, hey, you know what, like I'm going to preach the gospel to you, but I'm going to teach them Christian principles, which are just be a good person, essentially, at the end of the day. So it's a long answer, but
so the way you describe the purpose is more from a Christian perspective, making disciples and so on. But like you mentioned also, where there's a thought like you're either fully missionary type of a person or you're just not doing anything.
Right.
But is that like the only purpose, or is there different kind of calling for each individual person? Meaning, like, for me, the way I understand purpose or calling, I almost kind of categorize it into two parts. One is like it's general, and general applies to all people.
Yeah.
Kind of purpose of a human being is XYZ. And then there's like specific, like specifically for each individual person, there's a different type of purpose. Like this person, based on their personality, based on where they grew up, based on what they learned, they go in a certain track of life, basically, like from career, from job, to what they do, whether they have a family or not, or all these other kind of aspects to life. So like, have you thought about it that way, I guess, is the first thing? And then how do you reconcile the two?
Yeah, and the reason why I answered this way too is because, I was talking to my wife about it, and she's like, you know what the Bible says. I'm like, I know, but there's also like I don't want to say like there's a worldview of it, but to answer your question, essentially, yes, I think what my personal opinion, I might be a minority here, but I think that the Western civilization has kind of taken away some people's ability to find their purpose in life, because we're all sold this fake dream, or the fake American dream of you get a small little house, you get a white picket fence, you got your 3 kids and your 4 dogs and your 2 cars on payments, and you're great if you got that. And so like they're pushing this lifestyle of, get this and get that and buy this and buy that and you'll be happy. But we clearly know money doesn't buy happiness, right? It seems like this past couple of years we've had a record amount of like celebrities go, money in it, I've had it, doesn't make me happy, and they've all of a sudden they're having like a religious revival, right? They're talking about God and they're saying money ain't it, guys. And then you see the comments. Of course, it's easy to say that when you're worth $200 million. Yeah, when you already bought everything. It's like, yes, they bought everything and they're still unhappy. Their opinion is still valid. Obviously, yeah, their life's easy. But so I think what I'm trying to say is society has done, whoever it is, I don't know, which part of the Illuminati did it, but it's kind of like, if you do this, you'll be happy. But doing this is go to school, learn what you teach you, go to college, incur a ton of debt. You got to figure out what you want to do by the time you're like 15 years old. It's crazy, right? You're like 14, 15 years old and you have counselors come up to you. So what do you want to do the rest of your life? And so you have this immense amount of pressure put on you. You're a kid. Your brain is like not even halfway close to being developed. Barely. And you're just like, hormones just kicked in, and you're finally starting to like the opposite sex, and you're starting to understand some things, and they're like, quick, you need to make a decision. What do you want to do the rest of your life? Figure it out now. And so now, from a young age, you're just like, what do I want to do? And so you have counselors and teachers and people go, well, this is a great opportunity. Here you can make a ton of money. You can be a doctor. You can do this. And so you have 14, 15, 16-year-old kids starting to like spasm out, worrying about what am I going to do? Oh my gosh, I only have 2 years before I got to go to college. I got to choose a major and got to do this. And then by the time they do that, and they go to school for 4, 6, 8 years, incur a ton of debt, get a job, and 10 years later they wake up saying, I hate my life. I hate my job. I have 300,000 in, student loan debt still. I don't want to do this anymore. And then they kill themselves. Or they, it's insane. Like we have like a crazy, suicidal rate. And I think a part of it has to do with people just do things that they hate. Not saying that's the only reason or the biggest reason, but if you do what you hate and you don't love your job, and I think it's understated to enjoy what you do for a living, because that's a major part of your life, especially if you're like, let's say you're an entrepreneur, you're working 6-7 days a week versus the standard 5. That's the thing you do most in your life is something you hate. You're going to be a miserable person. And so, yeah, it's going to be hard to find purpose because you don't like doing what you're doing, so you're not passionate about it. In fact, actually, I know a guy who went to school for chemistry, and he was going to be a chemist. He wanted to go, and I think he already got his bachelor's. He was working toward his master's. And sorry, not chemistry. No, he had a minor in chemistry, but he was majoring in like structural engineering. Mm-hmm. He's 5 years into school, and he goes, "I don't want to do this anymore. I just realized I hate engineering." And so he completely changed his course and becomes a dentist. And good choice for him. He's extremely successful. But it's like 5 years in, he's like, I don't want to do this. And kudos to him. Like, good job. He had the courage to stop almost at the end of his career, at the end of his education, and just completely switch career paths. And so I think a career path, number one, is a big part of finding your purpose. Because if you're an unhappy individual, I think it's hard to find purpose because you're unhappy. And if you're unhappy, how can you possibly enlighten yourself, so to speak? How can you look at people who take up hobbies, right? They work out, they go hiking, they play sports, they do so on, they go fishing, whatever it is. Typically, they have a more well-rounded life. I feel that if you don't like what you do for a living, then you're not going to have as many hobbies, I feel. I could be wrong, but I think a part of it just has to start with what we do on a daily basis, right? And kind of going back to like what society ingrained in us. Like society lied to us for like 50 years that you got this food pyramid, and the top of the chain, sweets and then grains, and it's like, turns out pharmaceutical companies are pushing that all these years. FDA was basically just completely like scamming the U.S., and we're basically being told for decades, eat this. Turns out everything was bad for you other than like the meat and veggies and fruit. But those weren't the priority. Like we were told for decades, eat garbage. Told for decades, do this. And then there's like no wonder we have a record amount of people that are depressed, unhappy, they don't like their job because they were forced into getting an education that maybe they didn't want or need because they were pressured at a young age, incurred a bunch of debt. But meanwhile, they were eating food that wasn't good for them. And so like I can imagine, it's hard to be optimistic about life and to even want to find a purpose when you're like lethargic and, unfit and tired and you're poor because you hate your job and you have poor performance and you didn't get your raise. It kind of all, like it all stems in together.
There's so much going on there. So just to clarify, you mentioned career path. Actually, you mentioned the guy that went from structural engineering to dentistry. Was he happy after he became a dentist?
Extremely.
He was?
Yeah,
okay.
Extremely. In fact, so he has his own dentistry, and he works 4 days a week. It's fantastic. He has a great work-life balance. That's what he wants. He wants to spend more time with his family. He gets off work at like 3 p.m. It's fantastic.
Yeah.
But some people are different, right? Some people love the grind and are happy to work 12 hours a day. But for him in particular, he wanted to have more time with his family, which he does. And he's, very involved in his daughters growing up. And it's great. I love seeing it.
Yeah. No, I'm just asking that because sometimes people, like you mentioned a little bit ago, they're just not happy people. So no matter what they do, they're just not going to be happy at it. So they can try this and they're not happy doing that. And then they try something else, they're still not happy. And because I think
know some people like that.
because I think they're looking for happiness from the outside. They're looking for things or environments or whatever it is to make them happy versus just being naturally happy from the inside.
It's a perspective thing.
Yeah.
Right. You're looking for things to happen to them to make them happy versus, well, how do I make the most of my situation? Kind of tying into everything. It's like this has been on my mind forever. Like the past couple months now is, we were saying it even before the podcast started. It's like, hey, no matter what happens, good or bad, well, how you react to the situation is everything. You know, if something bad happens, it's a perspective. I mean, you can approach it how you want to. You know, if you lose your job, let's say something severe like that, you lose your job, you have two choices: find another one, basically find another source of income, or wallow in self-pity, cry, and eventually find another job. Like, just get yourself together and find a job if you need income. So you just have to be able to look at it from that perspective versus, oh my goodness, I have all these, you know, you can focus on your bills that are coming up and stress and worry about how am I going to pay them? I don't have a job, or just go get a job. And it's like that with anything in life. It's perspective. And, you know, even if you have a great job, you can be miserable because you're just not seeing the good in it. I have several friends who are happy and unhappy depending on, you know, which one you talk to. And no matter which job they're at, like, they're not happy. And it's because I think they're trying to find joy from that job potentially, because other parts of life, maybe they're not finding joy. And so they're trying to, it's kind of like with, you know, anything, whether it's drugs, alcohol, sex, whatever, they're using that to try to plug a hole in their heart, and because they're unhappy somewhere. And so I think people need to find out why is it that you are the way you are? Why are you miserable? And work on that, right? Are you, in fact, so the other day we're actually, was it, what day is it? It was Monday, 2 days ago. So my father, it was a three-year anniversary from his passing on Sunday, and so we were going to visit his gravestone Sunday, but the weather was wild. So we waited till Monday. We went out there and we were talking, and just kind of came to this realization of, like, people, you know, I'm having actually a complete major brain fart. I just got a little bit emotional, but we were talking about how people are just so dissatisfied with everything, it seems, and they're unwilling to take responsibility, and unwilling to appreciate what they should be appreciated for. And I think when you look at how frequent they're constantly just speaking bad about themselves, I think it impacts your entire life. So we were talking about, because I think my wife said something about her feeling a certain way. So she said, I am X. I forget exactly what it was because I'm having a brain fart. I'm this. And I'm like, don't say that. I'm like, you're not that. You feel this way, but you are not that. You're defining yourself. And so we've had that conversation over the years. I think people say, I'm so fat. I'm so poor. I'm so angry. I'm so depressed. I'm so sad. And it's like, well, words have power. You know, whether you believe in it or not. I mean, I don't know if we ever told you this if we last time we talked, but there was a study. I wish I could reference it, but there was a study done in a different country. I think it was, can't remember which country, but I'll have to find it and send it to you. And if you're watching this, Google it. There's a study that was done where a group of people there's two groups of people. Group A had cancer. Group B did not have cancer. Long story short, to summarize it, people who had cancer were given a placebo, and said that take this, we'll come back to you in X amount of months. You guys don't have cancer, take this experimental drug. We want to see if it has an impact on you. Placebo. Both groups had placebos. Group A with cancer, forget what percentage, but a percentage of them, they told them, congratulations, it cured you. You don't have cancer. But nothing changed. It was a placebo. They still had cancer. Then months later, they would retest them. Those people that they said you don't have cancer didn't have cancer, because they believed, I'm free, I don't have cancer. The people that didn't have cancer gave them a placebo, just a fake empty pill. There's nothing in there. Oh my gosh, we're so sorry to hear. It looks like you developed cancer. Nothing changed. They didn't have cancer. 2 months later, they come back in for a checkup. They genuinely had cancer. Long story short, the people that they gave cancer to, but themselves, here, try this new drug. We're experimenting. It should help you. Another placebo. Ended up telling them 2 months later or something like that, hey, congratulations, your cancer went away. And then it actually went away. And obviously this couldn't have been done in America because this would be highly illegal. But I 100% believe it, because it's like words have power. And so just them thinking they had cancer or didn't have cancer, it literally caused it to come and go. And we know that the brain is the most powerful thing in the human body. And so, you know, when people say, I'm so depressed, like, you're forcing yourself to be depressed. I'm so confused. You're a confused individual because you keep on saying you're confused, and so you're not finding your purpose in life, because instead of speaking positively instead of thinking positively and trying to find a solution, you're just kind of downing yourself, saying, I'm so bad, I'm so bad, I'm so dumb, I'm so this. You're not. You may feel confused for a brief moment because you don't understand what's going on. You may feel ugly, you may feel fat, you may feel tired, but you aren't those things. Like, don't define yourself, because then you are those things. And not to say, obviously, you know, you're not potentially, but you're if you just constantly say those things, you are what you believe. Versus, you know, you hear all these motivational speakers that say for a reason, look in a mirror and tell yourself you're a rock star and I rock and I'm gonna crush it, I'm gonna do XYZ. For a reason, it works. And so I've tried to do that. I don't do the positive affirmation really as much, but I definitely stopped saying I'm so negative X type thing, and my mindset's different. I don't feel, you know, if I have a moment where I'm angry or I'm confused about something, I don't go, I'm so mad. Oh, it's like, that made me angry, but I'm not going to be angry anymore. I'm just going to, like, it's a sliver of time where I'm angry, then I'm going to stop and I'm going to move on. And I think people will need to learn to close a chapter in their life, because they can't close a chapter and move on. And so they're struggling to find a purpose, they're struggling to move forward because the past is still holding them back because they never closed that door. And so they're so, like, oh, you know, victim blaming themselves, almost like, oh, I'm a victim because so many years ago this happened to me. It's true, no one's denying it, but today you are not that person. That thing no longer is there. You need to move past it. You need to continue on in life.
Yeah. I think in some cases people don't want to change in that, or change their mindset, because, well, it's something you have to believe, and then they just don't believe it because of their negative track record from before, right?
Yeah, I've never been good at it.
Yeah, something like that. And then the other one you just mentioned again, the victimhood. Like, some people will blame others, like have this victim mentality, like other people are doing this to me or whatever. But then other people, they don't blame others, but they blame themselves. Yeah. Where it's just, you know, I'm just not good at anything.
I'm just not a good person. Whatever. Yeah. This is why I don't have a good marriage or XYZ. I'm just this way. I'm just a negative person. I actually literally talked to a person the other day who said this, and it irked me so much. They went, you know, oh, I already know that I'm not going to do well at this because that's just the kind of person I am. I'm vindictive. And they're just like, it is what it is. That's just who I am. I'm like, that's crazy that you're just willing to accept and believe that you're a vindictive person rather than working on the fact that maybe you shouldn't be a vindictive person. It was just crazy to me that they're like, that's who I am. I identify as vindictive. Yeah. And that's who I am. And it is what it is. Sucks. Sorry. And like, so they go through life. They're literally like, yeah, that's like, I can't be better. I can't do what you want me to do because that's who I am.
Yeah. What do you think about, again, going back to purpose and calling, like looking in the Bible, Samuel, his mom dedicated him to God, and he became a prophet or a priest in Israel, basically. So that's what he lived out. That became his calling, kind of a thing. How much influence do parents have on their kids in terms of what the kids become? And then just before you answer that, like going back further, like medieval times or whatever, usually whatever the father did, if he was a blackstone or whatever, blacksmith, usually the kids kind of followed in that line because that's kind of all they knew and what they became. But today there's so many choices, so many things people can be. How much influence, or how do parents influence in the positive way?
So another long-winded answer, unfortunately. But it's just a perfect question, because these are things that I've been just thinking about for the longest time. So it's like God wanted this to happen. I think it can't be overstated how important it is a parent's blessing is on a child's life. The amount of times that things have happened in me and my brother's lives where we did not deserve any level of grace. We didn't deserve any kind of blessing, because I can say without a shadow of a doubt, we did not pray. We weren't living great Christian lives. We weren't, in that moment. And then things happened where it was just an unbelievable blessing. We're like, oh my goodness, like we got lucky. Come to find out, we speak to mom. She's like, yeah, I prayed for you guys. Like, I pray every day, multiple times a day, for your protection, for you to be wise, for you not to get hurt. And she's like, every single day without ceasing. Like, it's from the moment I wake up to the moment I go down to bed, I am praying for you guys all the time. And when my grandparents were alive, same thing. They'd always say, "Yes, like I'm always praying for you. I'm always praying for you." And so I feel like that's a massive part of why I've been so blessed in my life. But just as actually funny enough, like to our teens the other week, I had one of our last services before summer break. I said, "You're so blessed, not because of what you've done, A, because of what God did for you, but B, because of what your parents are praying for you all the time." I said, "However, you are finally at the age where you are responsible for your own actions, and your blessings in life, you now have an impact on it. Your parents are still going to impact your life. As they pray for you, you're still going to have a positive impact. And so you'll still have things that are going to seem unfair. Like you'll be blessed unfairly in a way. You'll get more than you deserve because of your parents. But you now are a conscious being. You know right and wrong. Your impact, your lives, your prayers, your words or lack of prayers impact your life. You are now a part of that. I'm like, and your salvation is in your hands, not your parents' hands anymore. When you were 5 years old, 6 years old, 8 years old, it was in your parents' hands. Now your salvation's in your hands." And so that kind of ties in with that because, parents can't be understated or overstated. It's super, super important. And I would hope that, parents, I'm not a parent yet. I want to be, we're working on it. Can't wait to, we prayed for our unborn kids and I'm like ready. Like I want to pray over my kids. I want to, because I want them to be successful. I don't want them to be unhealthy. You just, like, even when you're not a parent, I'm already like, man, I want my kids to have everything. So I can only imagine when you actually are a parent, like you want everything for them. And so that's super important. Super important.
Yeah. So okay. So going from what is a man to the purpose and calling to a life strategy. How can one implement a great life strategy for themselves? It's kind of a loaded question.
Yeah. It's like, ooh, how much time we got?
Yeah.
A life strategy. Jeez. That's the thing. I kind of envy the youth of today, where they have, actually it kind of goes a little bit into the last question about, kids or parents would pass down their work, right? So a blacksmith his kids would be blacksmiths, and a farmer, their kids would be farmers, and 7 generations later, everyone's a farmer. But today, people are doing different things, and mainly it's obviously because of technology. We have this blessing where you can do what you want to do. You can choose to do whatever you want, which is awesome. But the trouble becomes because it's never been done in your family's life, and you don't have a mentor, people struggle. That's why you see people who are like, yeah, the last, my family's we've been farmers since the early 1800s. They're successful because they know how to do it. Great granddaddy did it. And so like everybody did it since then. And so like you already kind of know what to do because by the time you're 8 years old, dude, you've seen it all and you're a professional. You choose a different profession and you're just like, you're starting from scratch. And now you're learning from people who you have to learn, who do I trust? Versus I can trust my dad, I can trust my mom, I can trust my grandparents. They're not going to steer me wrong. And so you see people who take up the family business, they do very well. I mean, obviously, yes, there's various factors, right? They probably already have some money, but they're professionals. You go in and you have, let's say, go into life strategy. You want to become rich or wealthy, or you want to retire maybe early or at least have a comfortable life. But if you go into pursue a profession that no one in your family has done and no one has experience with it, now you need to figure out who's my mentor. It can't be dad, it can't be mom, because they don't know anything about this. They can guide me, they can tell me to be wise, but when it comes to the actual details of the business, they don't know, so I can't rely on them. I need to find a mentor. And so now it's a trouble of who do I trust? Everybody's a guru, and I love it when someone's a guru, but they don't actually have their own business outside of being a guru. I'm like, a little bit sus. I don't know if I trust you. Like, you don't have your own business, you're just a guru. Well, I had my own 27 years ago. Man, things have changed in 27 years. Like the internet barely existed 27 years ago. Yeah. And so the way we run business then and now is different. And so it kind of comes down to, I guess, mentorship. You really have to figure out first, what is your goal? Do you want to retire early?
Right. So that was going to be the other thing I wanted to talk about is like starting with an end in mind.
Yeah.
Right. Like, okay, when you have lived your life out, yeah, at the end of your life, what do you want to have accomplished? What is your life like, and so on? Like having an understanding of what you want your life to be will help you with the strategy, with what you need to do
Yeah.
in it. But because I think a lot of people, we kind of naturally compare each other, like ourselves to others, and we're like,
Yeah.
maybe I want to live like this person's life, or that person, or whatever, or like that life seems nice
It looks nice. Yeah, nice car.
on the
Yeah.
outside, at least.
Yeah.
But then I think it requires a lot of work to figure out, what do I really want my life to be like? What do I want out of life? How do I want to live my life? Not just like, okay, they seem to be living great, so maybe I want to emulate something that they do. But if I emulate them, they already have a life, like their life.
Yeah.
Why,
and how they got there, you're going to get there differently.
Yeah,
And that's
all
just
of that.
what you see on the surface.
Right. And usually when we look at other things, when we compare, we only look at the positive things,
Yeah.
not the negative. It's like, you know,
Right.
maybe it took a lot of struggles, a lot of pain to get to where they are.
Yeah.
Or
How many
whatever.
7-day work weeks did they work to get there? You don't know.
Right. We
Yeah.
just look like, oh, okay, they have a great life, so isn't it nice or whatever. But like going back to like your own life or our own life, I feel like it's hard for people to define what they want out of life and how they want to live their life. Like if you look at the end of your life, it's like, you know, if I put myself at that point, looking back, what do I want to have accomplished? Anything or nothing or something?
Right.
You know, do I want to have some kind of a legacy, or is that not important? Like kind of from a Christian perspective, it seems like, I don't know if we're encouraged or like fame and reaching some kind of status is not what the Bible teaches, right? Like
Yeah.
it teaches the opposite. If you want to be great, be the least.
Yeah.
So-
right. Yeah. What the Bible teaches is effectively the opposite of what the world. Right? The world's like, be famous and all
Right.
this stuff, and the Bible's like, you need to humble yourself, which is correct. Right. It's, you got to stay grounded.
Yeah.
And so no, it's 100% difficult.
So how do you like place yourself at the end and be like, well, what is a life well lived look like?
Yeah.
And then how can I reverse engineer it? So what would you say for a typical Christian person? What would that look like?
Yeah. No. So I'm glad you mentioned this, because like I was saying, like I envy the youth these days because they have access to so much more of these types of conversations. Like we didn't have this growing up. Like I'm from a different generation from you a little bit, but even when I was growing up, like we didn't have this type of discussion. It was just like, get to work and hopefully you're going to make enough to survive. Now it's like you have this beautiful thing called the internet and social media where everyone's sharing strategies, and so you can kind of choose, what do you want? Do you want to become a billionaire, or do you want a super well balanced life? Do you want to work, find a way to work 3 days a week so you can take, a 4-day beach trip with your kids every weekend? Like, so yeah, you're right. It depends on what do you want. And I think that's kind of the struggle, but it's also better. I think it's a better question than, asking a 14-year-old, hey, choose a career path. You need to choose a career path. You have this really, really narrow thing you got to choose. You got to dial in. Versus, okay, well, I think it is a better question to ask, what do you want out of life? And then you can figure out, well, there's different ways of getting there. So it's definitely, I think, less stressful of a question. As much as like it's kind of crazy to think of what do I want out of life. But it's like, yeah, we should think about it. I will say I'm guilty of, for the longest time, I didn't really think about it specifically. I just thought, I want to make as much money as possible. I want to try to retire as early as possible because I don't want to, unfortunately be an 83-year-old Walmart door greeter because I have no savings and I have no kids to help me, and God forbid that happens. And like, it breaks my heart when you walk into a Walmart and you have this frail person that can barely stand. It's like, welcome to Walmart, and you're just like, it's crazy. But you hear stories like, yeah, I don't have Social Security, I'm $400 a month short on my rent every month, and I'm just like, that's one of the saddest things I can think of. And so like, it's kind of motivated me, okay, well, how do I at least not get there? How do I position my life in such a way where that doesn't happen? But then like on the flip side, the Christian part of me is like, you're not promised any level of money. The only thing we're promised is there will be trouble. Trouble's coming. But Jesus said, but take heart, but I've overcome the world. So he's like, trouble's coming. I'm promising you this. That's going to happen. I'm not promising you riches. I'm not promising you anything other than the fact that stuff's going to come your way. It's going to hurt. But I will be there with you every step of the way as long as you hold on. If you decide to have your faith dwindle, you're going to start falling through the water. Peter's walking on water, and the moment, he's walking, all of a sudden he's not walking. And so it's like, as long as you're walking on the water with Jesus, you keep the faith. I think that's step one at a minimum, is, that perspective of, okay, I want some things out of life. However, I think you have to be okay with the fact that that's probably not going to happen. And that's okay. It's a pride thing. For me, at least for me, I want X, right? I want a certain type of car, certain type of house, certain type of income. And I already know that I'm not shy to admit, like, I'm prideful. We all are. And I know my ego would get hurt if everyone sees, hey, Tony's working, he's trying his hardest, and he said he's going to become X rich, and then I fail for whatever reason, and then I'm not wealthy. In fact, I'm poor. I can see that kind of impacting someone, right? You're afraid of embarrassment, but it's like, but you shouldn't be, because that's not our purpose in life. So you have to be, I'm trying to train myself to be okay with whatever goal I have. It may not work out. That's like, I think that's step one, is set a goal of whatever it may be, but accept the fact that it's not a guarantee.
Is it, in your case, or in that case, is that goal the right goal? Maybe that's not the right goal.
Right, that's the thing, right? So it may not be the right goal.
Because I feel like if you set a worthy goal, no matter what, you go after it, and kind of like to the earlier topic, what you believe will happen, like the whole cancer example and so on.
Yeah.
It's the same thing with goals. If you believe it's going to happen, I mean, unless the world ends or whatever, like unforeseen and things you don't have out of your control, you can't control that. But everything when you're within your control, you can make it happen. It seems like there's so many people in U.S. examples of people that have reached certain heights based on their goals and surpassed them once they even reach those goals. So I think believing in it, as long as it's a worthy goal, I mean, can't say 100% it's going to happen, but
No, I'm glad you said that, actually, because you just reminded me. So actually, I mean, 100%, because we're saying money, but that's not really the goal, because it's just money is a tool to get there.
Right.
Because, I think everyone would love to not work, to have all the free time in the world with their family. That's what I want. I want to be able, like, in my dream, I would love to have so much land that I wake up and I go in my backyard patio with a cup of coffee with my wife and kids, and I look over and I don't see anyone's house. I just see land and maybe some animals, or maybe a river or a lake or something like that. That'd be like the goal, just a peaceful life.
But in that case, like, who's taking care of all that land?
Right. Yeah, exactly.
Like, so maybe if that's truly your goal, maybe you got to start working towards that now. Yeah. Building some kind of business, some kind of a life style around that, where you're contributing to somebody else through that land.
Yeah, that's
maybe you have some horses, you give lessons, whatever. Like, I don't know.
100%. No, yeah. So that's why. So like our primary source of income was and has been for a while, retail. We have the cell phone repair store, but that's a part of the reason why we started this software company. Because with retail, I learned, okay, there's a ceiling and there's a real ceiling, and the only way you can get past that ceiling is more locations. But in today's world, it's it's difficult. It's not saying it's impossible, but hiring and maintaining and all this stuff, it's one of those things where I don't find joy in it. We did pretty well at it, but I don't find as much joy in it anymore. And I feel to get to the point where we make enough money where we can have such a lifestyle, it would just kill me. So software, that part of that business is great because it's remote and the sky's the limit, literally, right? Anyone and everyone can be our customer. Versus, your 5-mile radius of people in your retail location, that's your customer base for the most part.
Yeah.
Software, my customer base is 8 billion people. Now you can kind of choose, obviously not 8 billion, but there's a lot more customers. And so even if I don't retire, at minimum, having a remote job, I can achieve something like that. But it's funny, you said what you said right there about people and their goals, and it just made me realize it depends, right? Like what your goal is. And it just reminded me of a person I know who is extremely wealthy, got very wealthy very fast, did extremely well with this company, and he's made enough money where he could, like, he's in his 40s, maybe early 40s. He could retire and not work for the next 50 years, and he could live off $100,000 a year, but he isn't. And so I'm wondering, at what point you reach a goal, and then you maybe keep on going because, well, I want more. And what's more? Like, what is it? Do you want the money, or do you want the time with the family? Because this guy has now made the money to where he could live until he's 100 years old and never earn another penny and be with his family 24/7. And that's not even counting putting the money in some sort of, investment and then let it grow. So it's like, at what point, I guess I'm looking for myself, like, at what point do I choose to, do I keep on working? Do I work 80 hours a week, 40 hours a week, 20? What do you do? And so there's a good question. It's something we should ask ourselves more often, because I'm just like, I've been thinking about it a lot. Like, what do I want to do and how do I get there? That's the hard part.
Yeah. Well, and that brings up a good point too. Like, you mentioned at first you wanted to just get to a point where you can retire and just spend a lot of time with your family. But, okay, let's say that happens. What are you doing with your family? You have your 20 acres, 50 acres, 100, 200,000 acres, whatever it is, right? Like, aren't you going to be bored just sitting on the porch looking
100%. No, yeah, that's definitely not going to be the goal. It's funny, real quick, just because you said that, like, a long time ago, when I was 19 years old, I don't know, I was 19 probably. I did a real brief stint at I was a scab. In case you don't know what that scab is, basically when there's a union and they go on strike, someone has to replace those union workers temporarily. And so I had a buddy from South Carolina, like, hey, there's a place in Ohio, tire factory went on strike, let's go, they're paying crazy money. So I was making $8,500 a month, which was great back then. I was like insanely good. And so we made a bunch of money, and I was working there, and I was doing really well. And the manager I had wasn't in the union, and so we're talking. He's early 50s, and he's talking about how in that town, that's like number one way people make money. That factory. If you get the job there, you're set for life. And he's like, all my buddies, we got a job here straight out of high school, 30 plus years working here. Like, all my buddies retired in the last 5 years. All of them, everyone I graduated with, they all retired in the last 5 years. And he starts getting like real somber. He's like, and last year, all of them have died. And I'm like, well, he's like, every one of them died. He's like, they all had this American dream of put my feet up on the beach, sipping Mai Tais, chilling. And he's like, and their bodies just gave out, and they all developed some sort of sickness, and within a couple of years, they all died. And as I got a little older, I was reading on that kind of stuff. Like, yeah, your body, first of all, is not meant to be this. This is not normal. Like, if you look at throughout all of society, 99% of the time, people are moving, and everyone had to move every day just to live. And so the American dream of retire, sit on the porch or whatever, and just do nothing is a scam, because it will kill you. And so when I say retire, I don't mean I'm just going to sit on a porch and drink coffee and do nothing. But and retire is a different thing for everybody. I think retire in my mind is I don't have to work for the money. I do it because I want to. I'm financially set where if I never work a day in my life, I'm good. But I'll still work. But I would love, ideally, to be more involved in ministries. Mm-hmm. I'm not as courageous as like our pastor, who just went full on, took a risk, moved down here from New York and opened up a church and just completely risked everything, and 1,000 hours a week into ministry. I have the utmost respect for it. Couldn't do it myself, but I would love to be more involved in church. I would want to, and not just church, but just in general. I would love to do more missions trips as well, and teach my kids from a young age how to be generous, hopefully. And obviously it's easier to be generous, I think, when you have a lot of money, but then the Bible also talks about other circumstances where a lady comes up and has like 2 pennies, and here are my last pennies. Right. And so that's its own. So why
not do that, or figure out a strategy to do that now rather than wait till you're retired?
We are. I mean, definitely are. Not to say I'm not. Yeah. I mean, okay. I'm involved in teen ministry. We're also involved in a young family ministry and a men's ministry. So I'm trying. I'm trying. I'm definitely doing it. And in fact, actually, I think you saw on Facebook we had our first men's grill out competition.
I may have.
So, yeah. So for the longest time, I was like, it'd be so cool if we just had a moment where all the dudes in church just get together, whip out our grills, and just make some burgers. Because everyone's always talking about how, I'm a macho man, I can cook some food, I make the best food. I'm like, prove it. So I'm like, let's just have a competition. And so they're like, seriously? I'm like, yeah, let's just host a grilling competition. Whoever wants to, bring your grill, bring your patties, bring your seasonings. And I was like, you know what? Let's make it a competition. Let's make it fun. Yeah. And we're gonna have a winner. And it was rigged. I came in second place. The first place one didn't even have didn't even have bacon on it. That's not even a real burger. But it was fun. It was really, really fun.
Yeah.
It was one of those things where it got us to like lay down our barriers, that Christian barrier of like, I'm a church and we need to talk about God and God only. But it was just like, we're just relaxing.
More of a community.
Yeah, just developing a further friendship with each other. And so stuff like that I realize is really important too, because even within the church, I think you can get lost in terms of, what's important. And I think building a relationship with each other is extremely important. You're not going to walk up to a total stranger and start a business with them.
Right.
So serving with people, I think you need to develop a relationship with them too. You need to have a personal friendship outside of just like serving with them. Because you typically see, people who do really well with each other at work. Typically, after work, they might hang out with each other. Not always, but I think you'll do better if you understand that person. And so that's kind of my goal right now. Like I want to because our church has grown a lot, especially since with the Ukraine war. We got a lot of refugees, but we also had a lot of transplants from all over the country. So our church exploded in growth, hundreds of members in the past couple of years extra. And so now we actually have 2 services. So we have a Russian and an English speaking service because we can't fit everyone even in one service, which is great. Like built a brand new church, big church, and they're like, it's going to fit everyone. And barely a year in, they're like, oh, we ran out of space. That was fast. So, which is great. But now we have so many people that don't know each other. And so we're hosting several events. Almost every single month, we're hosting some level of an event where, kind of just get to know each other. And then, throw in maybe a little Bible study. But overall, it's just become friends and know each other. So we're doing it slowly.
Yeah, that's good. No, you mentioned the other guy about reaching certain financial level and he's still working where he could retire. Maybe in his case, it's not about the money at all. He just likes what he's doing. He feels like he's on whatever mission as far as work goes, that kind of thing. So, I don't know.
100%. Yeah, he could very well. He's probably going to be, soon enough. And that's the thing, right? It's one of those things where, because I'm a young businessman, I don't have it all figured out. So I sometimes have the issue of I speak very confidently. And then like 6 months later, I go, oh, that was really, really dumb. And so what I'm learning is, everyone's different. Everyone's aspirations are different. But, even if he's extremely wealthy, let's say you build a company, you got 50 employees or whatever, if you don't have a right-hand man or right-hand person, maybe even 2 of them, you can truly never retire because without you, the company falls apart.
Right.
And so even if you made all this money, are you really going to do that to all your employees? No. You shouldn't. Hopefully you won't. Hopefully you're a compassionate person. You're going to say, well, I want them to keep their jobs. I love this business and these people are great. And so you have to build yourself out of the business if you choose to do that, if you don't want to work as much. And so I think this guy, if I remember correctly, he's definitely close to the point where he can soon just be like, hey, I'm good. It's running. I got people in place, which is awesome. That's like the dream. I think that's the dream. I think the dream is you build a company to where it doesn't require you, and if you put your phone on airplane mode, it doesn't all fall apart. The world doesn't burn down, and it's fine. And but right now I'm still at the stage where I turn on airplane mode as soon as this is off. I'm going to turn it on. My phone might explode. Like it's going to catch on fire from all the fires that are out there, and they're expecting me to put out. I'm like, hey, like I'm working on it, but it is a good reminder. Like you need to have a team, and it's not just a team, it's just procedures in place. And I think the hardest part is documenting everything, because you're so busy wearing 27 hats and you're doing all these different things in a business, and then by the time you get home you should be documenting and you should be reviewing what you did, but you're just like, man, I got 6 hours till I got to wake up. You just go to bed. And so a lot of business people do fall in this circle of just going through the motions, and I've gone through the motions for a long time, and thankfully finally getting to the point where I think almost everything we do is documented for the most part, which is very, very nice. I can say it allows me to leave work and do podcasts.
Yeah.
So
that's definitely a good thing. What do you think about, like, in terms of life strategy, like gamification of life, like
I love it.
Creating some kind of points, whatever it is, like turning your life into a game?
I love that, because I haven't done that. I do love. Actually, I haven't even thought about that. I think that'd be a really cool idea. It's funny because we actually are. So in our software company, we're building a gamification system for our clients. Mm-hmm. And it's like ironic you say that. I'm like, we're literally we just built that out. And so I can see that working where you're just And again, it depends on the person, right? Some people are super, super disciplined. They don't need that. I think certain people are more visual. Even just writing down a goal, like you have, a whiteboard and just writing down, okay, I want to achieve this, whatever it is, right? Whether it's a certain net worth or a certain amount of employees, or, hey, figure out a way so where I only have to work, 28 hours a week. That's my goal. I want to work 28 hours a week and make enough money to live. How do I get to this goal of working, 4 days a week, and I now have enough money? Is just write it down, and just I love that actually. I'm a victim, or rather, I'm guilty of not doing that when I should be doing that, because I am a visual learner, and that would probably help me. So I appreciate the idea.
Yeah, and when I say that, I don't mean just the career side of it or the financial side of it, but every aspect of your life. So like if you break your life into different parts, like spiritual, financial, relational, like relationship with friends, relationship with wife, relationship with kids, your health, and then career and mind, in terms of learning new things and staying sharp, like every aspect of your life.
I like the idea you said with like
that.
relationships, like maybe even actually I want to do this, dates with wife, right? And the more dates you go on, and then you kind of achieve different levels of like the ultimate husband. But that's a joke, right? But like, hey, like you have a goal. I want to go on X amount of dates per month, per year in our lifetime, and and where do you want to go and stuff like that. I actually like that, because it's important. I'm guilty again of not planning enough. I'm a very whimsical, by the moment person. Like, where life takes me, and that's not a great thing all the time. You definitely need to have some more structure in life. And so, but then I also am partnered with an individual who he's very structured, and so we balance each other out pretty well. But I'm more of like, let's just see where the world takes us today. But I like the idea of that, actually, even relationships, but family. I mean, family in general, but and just in your health. Actually, health's a good one. I think health is, thankfully, a very, very much so discussed topic these days, right? It's everywhere. There's health gurus everywhere, and people are starting to wake up to the lies of, just sugary foods and ultra processed, and have this and have cereal for breakfast. Like, they're waking up to the fact that that's just literal poison for your body. Yeah. And I try, like, this is a unsweetened coffee. Like, I try, we try to be we're trying to be like really intent on, drink water. If you're going to eat something, hopefully it's minimally processed, hopefully it's organic. But even organic foods is it really organic? I don't know. The ground's pretty saturated with stuff. But, right. I'm going to try to go out of my way I'm not going to be like crazy about it, but I am going to go out of my way to be like, okay, Red 40, I'm not going to consume this. Probably not, because it's known for causing cancer. So maybe not. And that'd be kind of cool, though, to maybe just, have it, hey, and not just like weight and a board, but, you have a goal of, I want to keep my resting heart rate here, my blood pressure here.
Right. Like having indicators for every part of your life.
Yeah, blood sugar, and then test it. Yeah, and
right. I mean, that's the health side.
Yeah.
But even before that, like, that's why I mentioned earlier on, kind of putting yourself at the end of your life and identifying what kind of life you want to live, what kind of goals you want to set for yourself.
Yeah.
So that way, those become your driving factors of your life, and then you can gamify from there for each part of your life.
That's a good point, because you're 100% right, and you actually opened my eyes like a lot just in that thought process, because again, like I said, from a very young childhood age, your focus of what you're told by the world is you need to choose a career, and so you kind of become, and I'm guilty of it, you become obsessed with career and money, and I need to earn money, where it's like, well, that's not the only thing in life. Like you said, you got health, you got family, and hobbies, and right, even hobbies, like, man, I like the idea of gamifying, like, do I want to become a semi-amateur golfer? No. But do I want to go fishing more often? Sure. Things of that nature, and just kind of, and I think that's a part of how, tying into what you're talking about is the purpose in life. I think at a minimum, it'll get you more motivated to wake up and be excited about life when you can kind of see, especially if you're a visual person, even if you're not visual, you just kind of look at a board and you can see all the things that are going for you and all the things you're striving toward. Because let's say one thing falls apart. Let's say you do lose your job, or let's say you lose a loved one, or something happens. You can at least look at the rest of your life. You see the big picture. Okay, all these things going on. And it's, as bad as this situation may be, that's not the only thing in my life. Like when I lost my dad 3 years ago, like there was a point where I genuinely was like, why am I living? And as I thought those words, I'm like, wait a second. I'm like, that's so dumb. I'm like, no disrespect to my dad. Like, I love my dad, and he was the best. I'm like, but, like, really? Like, I have a wife, and we have a future together. I still have a mom. I have brothers. I have all these other things. And I was like, I'm sad about this, but the fact that entered my brain, why am I living? I was just like, that's crazy. Like and it kind of spurred this whole renewal of the mind where, I'm trying to be more intentional with my thoughts and my actions and my words, and I'm learning, right? And you're just, like I said, you just taught me some things, but it's like we get so focused on the now, and if you don't plan the future, or if you just don't have like just a general idea, whatever happens to you today, we seem as humans to focus on that. And I think that's from a spiritual side, I think that's Satan's, one of his better strategies is getting you to focus on this one thing that just happened, right? Just one bad thing, and all of a sudden it's like it's the priority of your thoughts, and it's the sole focus of your brain, and you're just like, oh my gosh, I can't believe this happened. Oh, and like you become sad or depressed, and it's like, well, but 98% of your life is pretty darn good. You're upset about this one thing that happened here, or like you stub your toe, right? Like when you stub your toe, you're upset for like 5 minutes, and then you move on. And we kind of have to learn how to stub your toe and move on in other things in life. Like, yeah, that may hurt, but that's not everything.
Right. Yeah. Any other thoughts you have on these three topics before we kind of move on to the next one?
I think I said a lot. I said a lot. Yeah, I said a lot. No, I mean, yeah, no, it's one of those things where it's just, you can say what you want to say, and people will listen, and half people watching will either be offended by what you say, the other half might be like, that's stupid. Someone, and then someone in between might be like, wow, you know what? Like, that's a different perspective. And I think all I ever try to do when I speak, whether I'm preaching in a church or speaking to friends and strangers, I just say, just open your mind and don't be so angry. Like, don't be so quick to just be like, that's a dumb idea. That's not the way it's supposed to be. It's like, maybe, but listen. I kind of take that perspective of trying to listen. There was a preacher years ago who made a point where I think he was like a bishop, and he said there was a Christian conference he went to. Anyway, there was like thousands of preachers that were there, and some kid went and preached, 5-minute sermon, 13-year-old kid, and he's like, a lot of people were like kind of like laughing, like, what is this? This is a preacher seminar, and like, what is he going to teach us? And this guy's like, I don't care who's preaching. He's like, I'm a bishop, and he's like, I write down I pay attention, and I take notes regardless of who's speaking. He's like, he actually had a powerful word that God spoke through him. Now, did this kid intend on that or not? Doesn't matter. Like, God will speak through whoever, and he'll use any sort of example in your life to teach you things. And sometimes, like, I think God's always trying to speak, but if you're not receptive, if you're not trying to listen, you're not going to hear it. It's kind of like, when your wife's telling you to do something, and if you're playing a video game or watching TV or reading a book or whatever, if you're preoccupied with something and your wife's speaking, like, you hear that she's speaking, but you don't hear what she's saying.
Right.
So kind of like kids, the parents are like, do this, and you're like, huh, what? Like, you heard them, but you didn't hear them.
Right.
And so I think the same thing, if you're not listening, if you're not seeking God's word, if you're not seeking, or rather, just going into something open-minded, you're not actually going to hear what's being told. And so I think that's just like the only thing I ever try to do with everything in life right now. It's like, try to keep an open mind. That person might be older or younger than you. They might be more intelligent. They might not. Doesn't matter. They might have a nugget of truth and a nugget of wisdom that you haven't heard before.
Right. You can always learn things, even if it's in between the lines. Like, you can still.
Oh man, I'm trying to learn that. It's a tough one, but yeah.
Yeah.
You just have to be intentional, and I think that's a part of that. What makes life more exciting is when you treat every moment as, this can benefit the rest of my life, every other aspect of my life.
Yeah.
Not just this. It's like kind of like when you're in school and you start learning like calculus, and you're like, when am I ever going to use this? Probably never. But in other aspects of life, it's not the same. You're like talking to someone, you're listening, you're reading a book, you're like, when am I ever going to use this? I don't know, but you know what? If you're there and you're already spending your time there, you might as well do well, right? It's kind of like when you're at a job, and like when I was working at Cookout when I was 16 years old, it's like I could have just done the minimum and gotten paid minimum and got my pay, but I decided to work hard because I was like, if I'm already here, I might as well do a really good job. I might as well give it my all, because why not? I'm already here. What difference is it if I slack off or I do really, really well? Well, it turned out the difference was minimum wage was $5.75. I was getting paid $9 an hour, and I was one of 2 employees in the entire company that got overtime, because they're like, hey, every time you work, we don't need to schedule 6 people. We schedule 5 people. When we need 5 people, we have 4 people work when you work, because you do the work of 2 people. So here's extra money and overtime.
Yeah.
And so that, like, from a young age, I was like, okay, well, might as well, if I'm already doing it, might as well do good, and might as well try to be, intentional, because why not? Otherwise, what's the point? It's kind of like you might as well not do it. Might as well go do something else if you're not going to.
Right.
So.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Okay, so cool. We're going to transition to doing a reaction to a video. I haven't done this before, so
I'm the first.
yeah. So let's see how it goes. So the video is going to be 20 Rules of Money by Patrick Bet-David. We'll put it on the screen. So Lukey there.
I feel like I'm on Joe Rogan's podcast now. Like, hey, Jamie, pull up the slide.
Yeah, switch to monitor 4. There we go. And we'll maximize it here.
So we got our own Jamie over here.
Unmute
Thanks,
this. Oh, let me turn this down a little bit. All right, so let's give it a try. Just whenever you want to comment.
I definitely. I'll have something. You know that.
I want you to think about this here. In your entire lifetime, how much money has gone through your hands? How much? Let me explain to you what I mean by this. Maybe you made $73,000 last year, 28 years old. And the first time you got a check was 14 years old, it was $100. Add that whole thing up. You'll come out with a number, $493,000 or $1.9 million or $6.3 million, depending on who it is watching this video. The question is this: how much is left in your wallet? Truly, what is in your wallet?
I hate this question because it makes me feel so guilty. Like I'm just like, yeah, ooh. Like when I watched it, I'm like, yeah, how much is left? Not enough. I've definitely have blown some money, and I wish I didn't. Yeah. So it's one of these things where you're watching something that's like, what's it called? It's kind of like, I'm drawing a blank on the word, but essentially it's making you realize, yeah, you could have done better.
Yeah. Or a lot of people think, especially business owners who are new, they focus on income, like how much money is coming into the business, not necessarily on the profit. Yeah. So then, there's a lot of money coming in, but it's also going out, and there's like no profit. So then
it's a balance. Yeah, it's funny. Like it's a balance, but we kind of had this discussion recently where it's like, do I go and buy a $3 energy drink, or do I brew myself another 30-cent cup of coffee? And it's like $3 is not that big of a deal, but at the end of the year, ooh, that adds up. Yeah. But on the flip side, it's like, how much time is it going to take me to do either or? And in that time, can I make more, or can I just make more? And so it's a balance, I think. But a $2 drink isn't gonna make or break you. But if you do it 5 times a day, maybe.
Right.
Maybe.
Yeah. All right.
With capital choice, I'm talking like, really, what's in your wallet? What do you have left? How much savings do you have left? And if you're not too happy with this question, it's very simple. The reason why you don't have a lot of money left is because you don't know how to play the money game. Simple as that. So today in this video, I'm gonna cover with you 20 rules of money. These are rules of money that I followed, and it's obviously from a lot of mistakes I made, because there was a point in my life where I had made money and there was nothing left in my pocket. So I'm telling you from my experiences. But rule number 1 is the most important one. And it's the one you have to buy into immediately. It's very simple. You can fight it, say whatever you want to do to it. It's a rule. And the rule is, it's a game. Money is a game. And the great thing about any game is the following thing. No matter what game you play the most, eventually get good at it. If I've never played chess and I play you and you played 100 times chess, you're probably going to beat me. If I have played Monopoly 1,000 times and you played 3 times, I'm probably going to beat you, because it's a game. So the great thing about the money game is it can be learned. So many times people fight it and they have problems with it, and they say, well, it's that person became rich because they're smart, this person did this. No. They learn the game, and you can also take the time to learn the game. Rule number 2 is...
Yeah, that's so true. Oh my gosh. I mean, that's it goes so well with like people who hate on millionaires and billionaires. And they're like, oh my gosh, Elon this or Jeff Bezos that, and these guys are exploiting their employees. Like, number one, the employees can quit. They're not forced to be there. So no, that's not true. They're also, almost all of them are paid 6 figures. So no, they're paid very well. But it's just like, you look at people who typically will have like a 9 to 5, and maybe they don't even have a side hustle. And so then they get upset with rich people being rich. It's like, well, what are you doing? Like you said, you're not playing the game. You're just working, and you're trying to live within your means, but you're not trying to produce any sorts of other sources of income. And there's a million excuses. I don't have time, this and that. Or one of my favorite ones is I don't have money. It's like, you don't need money to make money to start with. You can literally go, like, I love Gary Vaynerchuk says it really well. You just go like $20 to a garage sale, buy some stuff for $20, find some deals, be intentional about it. Go wake up at 5 a.m. on a Saturday, go look, find some stuff, flip it.
Yeah.
It's simple. You don't need to start with a lot. And so I think people who just like, they don't play the game, and so they get mad at people who do well, who are like, oh my gosh, they did XYZ, they're making all this money, and they bought this awesome car because they bought that out of the tax write-off. How dare they? I hate that they can do that. It's like, well, you can too. You just choose not to.
Right. And some people are risk averse, right? Most of those people are the ones that have a regular career, regular job. But it's like having a regular job is like playing Monopoly and never buying any property. Just waiting until you go around the board to get your check.
You're just getting your $200. Yep.
Right.
Yep.
So you're not buying, you're not investing, you're not doing anything other than just kind of waiting for your turn to get around. And it takes a while to get around.
And you're paying all those fees too, right? You land on someone else's property, you're paying them fees. And if you never buy property, what happens? And 2 hours into the game, you lost. You're broke.
You're not investing. You're not doing anything else. You're just waiting for that paycheck.
You have no source of income. But meanwhile, your expenses go up. It's actually a perfect example because as everyone else buys property and they build hotels and stuff, like every time you land there, it only costs you more and more. You just run out of money,
right?
Because your income never got better. Yeah. And so it's kind of like with inflation right now. Inflation is like record high, and so people are complaining about it. I'm like, I agree with you. Inflation sucks. This is expensive. Like, it's horrible. Okay, we complained. We got that out the way. Now what?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm going to vote for Trump, or I'm going to vote. Okay, that's then. And then by the time policies take place, dude, we're years away from actually seeing an impact if we do. So what are you going to do until then? I'm going to complain. Okay, make money. Like, that's at the end of the day, like, we can all complain, but at what point are you just going to like man up and do what needs to be done? Make more money, cut where you can cut, but make more money.
Right.
Simple. I mean, that's really the only solution. You can't, like, people are like waiting on a savior essentially to come in and like help them make more. Times are tough. Yeah, eggs are $7 a carton. It sucks.
Yeah, maybe it's time to go to local farmers and get some eggs from there.
I mean, so what we did, we reached out to a local farm and we bought half a cow, and ended up being under $5 a pound, butchered and everything, individually vacuum sealed, packed, grass fed local beef. So I got ribeye, I got everything, right? Obviously, you got
next time you
beef.
do that, let me know.
Yeah, 100%. And if you buy a whole cow, it's even slightly cheaper. Yeah. So it was like, and we bought like a giant chest freezer, a standing freezer upright. I think we paid like $300 for it, and it fit virtually everything in there.
No, but I mean, like, maybe get a bunch of people together and be like, okay, let's collectively
100%.
buy a cow.
Yeah, that's what we did.
Yeah,
we split it up. Yeah, 100%. Because if you buy a whole cow, it's even cheaper, and so that you can get creative. I think people just need to be creative. I mean, you got time, especially if you're working 9 to 5. Let's be real, you have time. You're not exactly like, you're not an entrepreneur working 90 hours a week. You have time, so get creative. Yeah, buy in bulk, cut where you can, maybe sell your second car. Unfortunately, you have to make sacrifices. I haven't bought new clothes in years, except when my wife forces it. Amazon truck shows up, and I'm like, oh boy, here we go. And I'm like, I'm trying to save money. She's like, you need new clothes. I'm like, all right, that's fine. But you just gotta be willing to make some sacrifices and play the game.
Yeah. Let me just turn this caption off. Where is this caption? Can't see from here. Oh, there we go. All right.
Don't be a hater of money. If you hate money, you'll never get money, because money doesn't like haters. So if you're a hater and you constantly say things like, well, money doesn't grow on trees, and money is this, and money is that, and rich people are this, you're right. Money says, you're right, I'm not turned on by you. It's almost as if going on a date with an attractive girl and telling the girl that you don't like attractive girls who don't know a lot about philosophy, and all they care about is their looks and doing makeup and doing this and working out and going to the gym. And this girl's like, dude, I put makeup on, I work out every day to stay in shape, but I also like other things in my life. But you know what? You're right. You're not attracted to me. I don't like you. She goes and finds another guy that says, I like a girl that takes care of her body.
What do you think of that, especially from a Christian perspective, right? Like we're told, not told, I mean, even from the Bible, it says, you know, the love of money is the root of all evil, but people kind of skip the love part and just talk about
money is the root of all evil. Actually, I'm glad you brought that up. So this is like deja vu almost. So I actually had this conversation where I listened to a clip just the other day where someone asked, you've heard of Cliff Connectley, the street preacher. He's a pastor of a church, but he also like does a lot of, goes to university campuses and preaches. And someone asked him, like, hey, so the Bible talks about how the love of money is the root of all evil, and it's harder for a rich person to go to heaven than fitting a camel through the eye of a needle. He's like, problem for me, he's like, I'm going into a career I'm going to be really wealthy. I'm going to make a ton of money. He's like, as a Christian, what can I do to protect myself? How do I make a bunch of money in the career path that I'm choosing and still go to heaven? And Cliff's like, it's not just money. He's like, the Bible does say money. He's like, it's wealth, but like, it's all relative. It's money. It's fame. It's if you're excellent at something. Let's say you're LeBron James. You're not gonna be humble. So you think all about being humble. If you're an excellent musician or you're famous, it's the same thing as being rich. Like you have to be humble. You have to recognize that God gives and God takes. And so that's where it comes down to, where, you know, if you recognize that God gives and God takes, God gives. If you get fame, you got fame. If you got rich, you got rich. If you're 6'5" and you're the number one, you know, let's say you're Tom Brady, like it's difficult to go to heaven because you're probably so full of yourself. It's easy to think I did this, and you become prideful. It's harder to give God credit because you can say, well, I did this because for the last 20 years, I've been waking up at 4:30 a.m. I work out for 3 hours before I even have breakfast. I don't eat carbs. I haven't had carbs in 15 years. I'm all this. And I think that's applicable to money just the same. It's I earned it. I bought this Rolex. I bought this Lambo. Me. And I think one thing where the church kind of has failed and we're starting to get better at is teaching that it's the love of money. Just like the Bible says, it's the love of money that's the problem. It's not money that's the problem. But it's kind of like when people say, well, you know, since that's such a big problem, potentially maybe it's just better not to pursue money in general. Like that's dumb, because how are you going to help other people who can't help themselves, right? If I'm poor and I can barely pay my own bills, and then I run into someone who needs $500 to pay their rent, and I only have $300 to my name, how can I help them? Yeah. Essentially, so you need money to help. Not to say you can't help people when you're poor, but when you're poor or can't even provide for yourself and you're living off the government, you're not able to assist other people. That's gotta impact your own moral compass too, like your own being, right? Like, hey, I can't even. Not only am I not helping other people, I'm a burden on other people, and I can think that should hopefully cause you to get your stuff together and do better because you want to help other people. Yeah. Yeah. So it's like the motive behind it. Yeah, it's the motive, right? Is the love of money the motive, or service to others? Yeah. I mean, it's kind of like. This isn't a Christian thing by any means, but you look at like Mr. Beast. The guy at this point could just never do anything ever again. He let his videos play and he will be a billionaire. But like he just had a video post the other day where he built 100 houses for people. And his average video now costs him like $3 to $7 million. His videos now get so many views and they cost so much money that advertisers will they have to outspend their entire annual marketing budget on one video with him, because he'll garner more views than the Super Bowl. And so it's like, but he gives it away. And so, not to say he's not going to be like mega rich in 10 years, he could just, you know, sell off his brands, but he already had an offer for $1 billion, turned it down. And so, you know, is his motive real or not? I don't know, but he is doing good with the money. So it's a prime example of someone who isn't a outwardly, you know, Christian who's saying Jesus is Lord, but he's using his money wisely. So if he can do it, if he can help other people with all of his riches, you would think a believer could too. We should. So I use that like an example. Like people are like, oh, Mr. Beast. I mean, whether his motives are true or not, look at what he's doing. His actions speak. Otherwise, he's giving away the vast majority. Obviously, yes, 4 views. He gets richer every day, but the fact is he still does it. He started like that. I mean, his very first sponsorship deal, he's like, I'll take all of it. I'm going to give it all away.
Right. From what I heard one episode where he was talking about that, about his motive behind that, and that was, it wasn't about the money. He wants to be like number one in that space.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's kind of his goal or his motive.
Which may not be like the most humble thing, but it's one of those things where, again, everyone's different. But at least I look at it from the perspective of, I may not agree with everything he does, and that's with anybody, but at least he's putting his money to good use versus just like you have some people that just hoard it and then they bought their 17th house. I'm like, man, when is enough? Like, how many yachts do you need? Things like that. So there's a balance to be had. You can be mega rich, but maybe just 1 yacht's fine.
Right.
Maybe 2, but like, when you see people like the Abramovich guy or whatever, he had like 4 yachts. Like, dude, at what point is it enough? That's kind of wild. I think one of them he said he lost. Like, couldn't find it. He's like, I don't know where it is.
Didn't have the GPS chip in it.
Yeah. $80 million floating somewhere in the ocean. It is what it is.
Yeah.
I like a girl that takes care of her skin. I like a girl that does makeup. I like a girl that works out 5 days a week. She's attracted to that guy. Keep that part of mind. Don't be a hater with money. Number 3, it's a doubles game. Listen, this should you can stop watching the entire video. You got the main things out of the way. It's a double game. And by the way, at the end of the video, I'm going to give you a free PDF. It's a double game. What is a double game? The entire game of money, it's about doubling your money. So what do you mean, Pat, doubling your money? Let me explain it to you this way. If you right now have $1,000 in your bank account, if you're watching this, you have $1,000 cash, you are 10 doubles away from $1 million. That's it. You're 5 doubles away from having $32,000. You're 13 doubles away from having $8.192 million. You're 14 doubles away from $16 million. It's a doubles game. So how soon can you double your money? That's truly the game. Can you take that $1,000 and double it to $2,000 in the next year? So the next thing is, now it's $2,000.
So with this, it reminds me of the talents, right? The parable of the talents, where there were 3 different individuals given 3 different talents. One was given 1, the other one 2, and the third one 5.
Yep.
And the first 2 came back and doubled their talents.
Yeah.
But the third one came back and was like, oh, okay, I know you're a hard master or whatever he said. And here's what you gave me. I gave you money. Right. I didn't want to lose it, risk it, and here it is back. And it's like he wasn't commended for saving or returning what was given him.
Yeah.
He was actually yelled at or whatever you want to call it. Reprimanded, right? For it, because he was like, the master was like, you could have at least give it to the banker and got some interest on it.
Done something with it versus shoving it in a mattress.
Right.
Yeah.
So like doubles, there's something to it.
I will say the doubles thing initially, because I've heard of this concept before other social media guys, and my initial reaction was cringy. I was like, "Ooh, that's weird. That's like, it's so dumb. Like, it's so vague. It's so like, what are you talking about? That's not specific." And it's just like, "Oh, I'm just gonna double my money. What a dumb thing." Mm-hmm. But I'm realizing no, but it's a gamification.
Right.
It's exactly what you said. It's just one way of setting goals. Like, all right, so I have $4,000 to my name. Now I need to get to 8. How do I get there? It's just a way of, and I think what he's talking here is really just about ways of encouraging yourself, setting goals. Like, everyone's different. Maybe it's a doubles game for you. Just, all right, I have 2,000. I want 4. I want to hit $1 million. I want to hit $8 million. How do you get there? And so at a minimum, it's just like, all right, these are goals. And he's not saying take $2,000 and go throw it on the blackjack table and try to double up. No, but he's saying you got 2,000, figure out a way to turn it into 4.
Right.
You got 4, figure out a way to. So initially, my knee-jerk reaction from the past was a little cringy, and now I'm just like, I get it. He's not talking like this is specifically you're just gonna take that money and double it. No, go and make more. And I hope people will actually take that for what it is. Like, that's actually really good advice. It's such a real simple way of how do I make more.
It also creates a framework for you, for your mind. Like, expand your mind. Like, okay, if I have this amount of money, what do I need to do to double it.
Yeah.
So your mind opens up in terms of ideas and thoughts and like creativity and research and everything else, versus like, no, that never works. So you dismissed it and now you're not thinking about it at all.
Yeah, I love you said that. 'Cause there was I forget who said it, but there was something about, someone said it's difficult for people to make millions if you've never made millions, because you don't understand, like, especially if you're surrounded by people who've never made a million or even 100,000, and so your entire life you're surrounded by people who have a similar mindset. The mindset is limited. It's, you know, and not to say it in a bad way, it's just you and the people around you have never earned, let's say no one's ever earned more than $80,000 a year, and you've never even seen more than $20,000 in your life. And then it's like someone's like, well, go ahead and try to make 10 million. How are you going to get 10? You have no idea where to start. And so this is just a way to be like, all right, well, let's set a tangible goal, 8,000, 20,000, whatever. And now it does allow you to start thinking outside the box. Well, how do I get there? Because if you just have if your goals are too broad, yeah, I want to retire by the time I'm 60. Well, how?
Right.
What does that even mean? How much money is that? So like put a dollar amount on there. Is it 1 million? Is it 8 million? If it's 1 million, not going to be enough, by the way, at 60. Unfortunately, especially with the rate of inflation, like you will be middle class by then. But it's like set a number. That's effectively a different way of just saying put a number and now try to achieve that number. Be a little bit specific with your goals versus just, I want to be a millionaire. Well, what does that even mean?
Right. Yeah.
Essentially.
Yeah.
An account, now you are 9 steps away from $1 million. You may say, Pat, I already have $100,000 in my account. Well, guess what? You're 4 doubles, 3 doubles away from $1 million. All you got to, it's a doubles game. This is a piece of cake when you learn it's a doubles game. So the question then becomes what? How soon, this is the real game of doubles. It becomes 2 different things. Risk tolerance, because you got to know yourself when it comes to money. Mm-hmm. Your risk tolerance, depending on the age you're at, if you're 65, your risk tolerance is going to be lower than you being 22 years old, right? So you have your risk tolerance. You need to know you. Then the other part is time horizon. What is your time horizon? So time horizon could be, I want to have $1 million by 10 years from now. Great. If it's 10 years, what do you have right now? Then you have to play your doubles game. How many doubles do I have with the $17,000 to get to $1 million? It's a simple game that you can learn what to do. As long as you know your risk tolerance, you know your time horizon, what it is and what the amount is, then you're playing the doubles game. Number 4, seduction. Let me explain to you about seduction, okay? Listen, I use the analogy with ladies because it's just how it is, okay? Money likes to be seduced. Money's attracted to seducers. Just like a woman doesn't like a desperate man, money doesn't like desperate people. Money's not attracted to desperate people who want it so bad because they want to make this money and show it off to everybody. No. Money seduce. You need to seduce money. Seduce money, and all of a sudden money says, oof, I like this guy. I like this girl. Oh my gosh, I'm turned on to you. Don't let money seduce you. You seduce money. It's a seduction game. So whoever learns the seduction game with money, all of a sudden money starts coming from all over the place to you because money is turned on by people that know exactly what they're doing. Money likes investors who know what they're doing. Okay? A girl goes on a date with a guy that knows what he's doing. She's most likely to come back, and then there's experience. So learn how to seduce money.
So with that one example would be like people who are desperate, like, okay, I just lost my job, I need a job. When they're desperate like that, they're less likely to get a job or get a better job because first, they're just jumping at any opportunity. It may not be even a great match for them.
Yep.
And you go to that interview and it's like the people interviewing kind of see that, okay, well, you don't really fit, this culture or this company or this role or whatever it is. And it's like they keep trying, whatever it is, and it doesn't work. Versus like not being desperate, you're confident in your skills and so on, even if you lost the job, but you know what you're doing, you know what you're looking for, and you're confident in it. Then it's like, okay, well, yeah, you can do this role. It looks like you have the skills, you have the attitude, the whatever else, the intangibles for it, and then you get that job. So it's like, right, if you're desperate for something, and just like you said, in relationships, like nobody wants somebody else who's like desperate for.
Yeah, you lose leverage.
Yeah.
I mean, actually, just like as he said, I just was reminded of a situation where that happened to me, where for a brief, maybe just under a year, I did car sales, and I had a moment where I went through a dry run. I didn't sell a car for almost 3 weeks, and I started to get desperate. And my manager literally was like, "Dude, I can smell the desperation on you, and the customers can too. You cannot." He's like, "I understand it's stressful. I understand you haven't got any money in 2 weeks. You cannot be desperate. If you're desperate, they'll smell it and they will take advantage of you, and they know you're desperate for a sale. Like, trust me, they'll do that." And so I was trying hard to not be desperate, but then I would be like, "Oh, I'll see what I can do. I'll talk to my manager," and they'd go, "You know what? I can get a better deal." And then it never worked out. They didn't like trust me. Then all of a sudden I just went, you know what? It's going to be less about the money. I'm just going to build a relationship. And one guy told me, he's like, just build a relationship with them. Just be nice to them. Be friendly. Show them the car. Make them fall in love with the car. If they love it, they love it. And they have to love you. They have to love the dealership. Get them comfortable. And so all I did was I spent like 2 hours with this guy, just like, let's do a car. We'll do the test drive, this one, that one. I'm like, all right, so you love the car, fantastic. Like, and kind of focused on what do you love about this one? What do you love about your current car and you want in this one? And just kind of like probing, what do you currently like? What do you not like? And then we found the right car for him. And I was like, fantastic. Hey, let me show you you live in the area? Yeah. Okay, let me show you our service center. I'll introduce you to Dennis. There's one guy, Dennis. He's the greatest guy we have for service. He'll be your service guy. You ever need anything done to your car, you reach out to him. Kind of personalize the whole thing. I'm like, this is great. Like, meet him, this and that. I'm like, want a coffee? And then we're finally sitting down and talk numbers, and he's already like, he felt better, like he was treated well, and it was an easy sale because he's like, I want to give you my business. And it comes to like reciprocity. If people want to reciprocate, if you treat them well and you do well and they feel it, and you're not desperate, like, I need to make a sale, and all you're focused on is money versus experience and value, because you do diminish the value you offer when you're just about the money. Like, money is one thing, but what value are you offering them? Mm-hmm. What makes you a better option than the other 73 dealerships in town?
And the value is beyond, like in your case, beyond the price of the car.
Yeah.
What is the additional value that comes along
with
it?
And the value is one thing, like, that we got the service guy and the department and all that, but I've learned over the years, it's also just the questions you ask your customer or questions you ask a friend. People love to talk. People love that people listen. And so if you ask questions, it shows that you care. Like, hey, I actually care enough. I want to know some things. I want to follow up with you. I have a follow-up question versus just, hey, how's it going? Good. Okay, thanks, bye. But you're actually intentional, even if it's fake, hypothetically. I mean, you just ask a question like, hey, how are things? I mean, we do all the time. It's a nicety. You're just being nice. Like, hey, how are things? You got any plans this weekend? 3 seconds of small talk, and you know what? Every now and then we have a customer going, you know what? And they just they needed to get something off their chest, and it's like, yeah, it took 5 minutes, and sure, we have a line, but you know what? This person all of a sudden just feels better. They got something off their chest, and guess what? They're going to spend a bunch of money with you too, because now, but it's a trust thing, but it's also like, it kind of goes hand in hand with when people call into a store, like, hey, what's the price on XYZ? And this is how I train my guys. Like, don't just give them the price. Ask questions. You have to know about their situation, right? What are you currently using? How is it affecting you? You just have to ask something, because what's going to happen is, even if they don't give you all the answers, in my mind is, well, if I'm a customer, I'm saying, hey, this one company I called, they gave me a price, and that's all they did, gave me a price, no value. These guys, maybe they're a little bit more expensive, but they asked me questions about my situation that are specific to me and how it can benefit me. They sound like they're more professional. I can trust them more because they know they sound like they know what they're doing.
Yeah.
Option A, the first guy probably knows what he's doing, but because all he did was spit out the price and hung up the phone, he didn't give himself a chance to present to the customer, hey, I can help you. And that's like in anything in life, not just customers. Like, hey, I'm capable of maintaining a relationship. I'm capable of helping you in anything. But if you don't give yourself an opportunity, if you're just desperate, like, yeah, I need to make a sale, I'm going to just give them a price and hopefully that's it. Like, they can smell that on you. And so I love it. It's so true, because people don't emphasize value enough. They don't emphasize relationships enough. I think we're in such a transactional society where it's just money, 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 and that is accurate. We do need to make money, but you can take 20 seconds to just be a human and just talk. That's really what it comes down to. If you just talk, it eliminates some of that desperation factor. Even if you are desperate, you don't sound desperate.
Yeah, and for people who are more reserved, you just got to practice it more.
Yeah, you just have to just talk, right? I mean, it's just like I'm fairly good at it. You just have to talk, and it don't be afraid of talking. And sometimes you're going to say some things, and you're going to fumble over your words, and you're going to say some things that maybe aren't the smartest, and it's fine. Who cares? Does a judgment of some random person on Facebook or YouTube really matter? No.
Right.
Not really. I want to get better at what I'm doing for my own life, for my wife, for my family, and in all aspects. I want to be able to be better at speaking to her, better at honoring her, better at everything. And so I can only do that with communication, right? If you speak to people just like this, having conversation allows you to do more than just think about the dollar, and you think about value rather.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely a good point.
You need to seduce money. Seduce money, and all of a sudden money says, oof, I like this guy.
I just love how he says seduce
I
so much.
like this girl. Oh my gosh, I'm turned on to you. Don't let money seduce you. You seduce money. It's a seduction game. So whoever learns the seduction game with money, all of a sudden money starts coming from all over the place to you because money is turned on by people that know exactly what they're doing. Money likes investors who know what they're doing. Okay, a girl goes on a date with a guy that knows what he's doing, she's most likely to come back, and then there's experience. So learn how to seduce money. Once you learn this whole thing, you'll get better at this game as well. Next, timing. Timing when it comes down to money. Let me explain about timing. I'm not talking timing like this is the best time to invest into Snapchat, or this is the best time to buy the IPO of Facebook, and etc. I'm not talking that timing. Although that's a whole different conversation with timing. Timing, I'm talking about running a business. I'll give you an idea. There was a time where logically I had to cut down, okay, in my business. And I had to get rid of 2 or 3 employees. Logically, I had to cut down. But I knew what I was getting ready to do, and I had access to all the information. I decided to double down, and that helped expand the business to new area, new territories. So, and then the other part is cutting down expenses, is you knowing maybe numbers are looking very good, but there's an area that needs to be cut down that no one else knows about the information. You need to cut down because you have access to all the information. So there's got to be a part where you need to know, and this is a thing that we can't teach you. This is not something I can teach you about. But this is going to be a part of it that you're going to learn from experience with timing. Timing with when you buy, timing on when you invest, timing on when you stay light, timing on when you stay liquid, timing on when you go. There's a timing aspect to all those decisions you'll make. Number 6, boredom. Let me explain what boredom means. Money needs to be moved, okay? Again, if a girl is bored with you, she leaves you because you're too boring. Same with men. If a man is bored with a girl, they're going to leave because it's boring. Money doesn't like to be bored. What do I mean? If money stays in a checking account, money's going to somebody else who knows how to use that money. If money is just staying somewhere and it's not working, it's too boring, it goes to somebody else that knows what to do with money. So you got to make sure money's always moving. Money's always moving for you, always moving for you, always moving for you, always working for you, always out there doing something to create more money for you. Next, secret account. You always got to have a secret account. Let me tell you what a secret account is. It's an account that no one knows about. Your wife, your husband, your boyfriend, girlfriend, mom, dad, brother, sister. No one knows about this account. What is this account? It's a crisis account. A crisis account could be cash. A crisis account could be somewhere sitting down that no one knows about. Now, I know you may say, Pat, you just talked about boredom, you talk about this. 2 complete different stories. You got to have a crisis account that's not your emergency fund. I'm not talking emergency fund that this is the right thing to do. I'm talking a crisis account. What saved the business when we were going through difficult times and our company's checking account went to $13,000. I have payroll, commissions, everything. $13,000. Where we're about to shut down the company. It's this close. We're about to shut down the company. What saved us was the crisis account that I had. No one knew about. That money showed up, put it back into the business, saved us. We lasted. We made it through the tough times. And now we're here where we are today. But it's because I had a secret crisis account no one else knew about. You always need to have a secret crisis account. Number 8, don't drive first class until you have $10 million in a bank account. I see so many people spending $2,000 on a flight where they can spend $400. Listen, I'm 6'4", 6'5", 240. And do you know how many times till today I've paid first class? 0. I don't pay first class. Other people pay for my first class, but I don't pay first class. I've been paid first class. I've flown first class many, many times because I have the miles or people pay for my flight. I don't pay first class. And why is that? Here's how I did the math. Now, obviously, I can afford to do it, no problem. But here's how I did the math. You're trying to tell me $2,000 for a first class flight, and I can get $500 for the same flight. That's $1,500 times 9 flights in a month. That's 9,000. That's 9 times what? $1,500 is $13,500, some number like that. You know what I can do with that number? That's 4 employees. That's marketing. That's expansion. That over a year, that's $200,000, $180,000. Why am I going to waste that money? That's an executive I can bring in. That's 2 incredible employees I can bring in. I don't pay first class. Other people pay first class. Once you get $10 million and you want to do it, that's great. At that point, you may want to get yourself a private jet, but don't fly first class.
I mean, between that and boredom.
Yeah.
I mean, boredom's important. I think we don't talk about that enough, where it's like, you got money, where are you investing it? We don't talk about that, or at least in our culture, we don't talk about investments. But yeah, I mean, don't fly first class. I think you can apply that to virtually anything. Maybe you shouldn't buy that 8,000 square foot house yet. Maybe it's a little early. Maybe, maybe that G-Wagon is a little bit early. Maybe, staying at the Waldorf Astoria, it's a little bit early. Like, you just got to factor in, like, you got to have a balance with what you spend where, because it's just, I mean, yeah, tomorrow's not guaranteed. That is true. People might be watching and be like, oh, but what if you die tomorrow? Might as well. Sure, but what if you live until you're 107?
Right.
I mean, so you got to have a little bit of discretion on your spending.
Yeah, and it's about your goals too. Like, where are you headed? So are you already there? Like, he gave an example of 10 million.
Yeah.
In this video,
Tangible.
in his view, 10 million is when he made it. And then he can fly first class.
Yeah.
So if you're not there at your goal, why are you going to delay yourself getting there by buying luxuries that will basically delay you from getting to your goal faster?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, it's easy to do when you're younger, especially when you have a higher risk tolerance. It's like it's very tempting, but it's like, I want to get to my goal faster. I'm going to delay gratification to a degree. At least try. And maybe much to my wife's disagreement sometimes, but yeah, no, I like that. And shoot, the credit card miles thing, like, that's, or the miles. I mean, yeah, absolutely. It's, if you own your own business, like, I know people who own their own business and been in business for 5, 6, 7, 8 years actually, and they don't have a credit card. Like, I actually met a guy a month ago who's been in business for 7 years, doesn't have a credit card. He's like, oh, I don't believe in credit. I was like. I'm like, man, that's brutal. And I was like,
he follows Dave Ramsey to
yeah, like, Dave Ramsey doesn't apply to you as much. That's a 9-to-5 person. You work 6-7 days a week. Dave Ramsey doesn't really apply to you, especially to the fact that credit card, I mean, just helps with cash flow for your business, but dude, that cash back is free money. I mean, quite literally, you're buying the inventory, you're gonna buy it anyway. You might as well put it on a card and get cash back. It's unbelievable the amount of business owners that don't have credit cards, because they're like, oh, Dave Ramsey says. I'm like, that's not for you, man. And that's a thing I have against Dave Ramsey. I wish he would kind of spend a little bit more time specifying this isn't advice for everybody, but he's so like, this is the way you need to do it. And this I was kind of talking about earlier, like, people who are just so like, this is the way it needs to be done. And it's applicable to a lot of people, and it's very helpful, but in some circumstances,
I have found that he mentions it, like, basically 80% of the people that listen to him, it applies to them.
Yeah.
And he just tries to focus on that mass number of people rather than the 20% or less.
Sure, definitely. No, it makes sense. I mean, that's the majority of his audience. It's just wild to me how many business guys I know who, like, actually, funnily enough, I was introduced to one business owner a couple months ago through a mutual friend. And as I got on the call with him, he's literally walking out of a Dave Ramsey class. And he's talking about how he doesn't have a credit card and this and that, and he has his own business. And I'm like, I kind of just broke down the math. I'm like, based on what he's like, I just asked him, like, just tell me your numbers, bro. Like, what are you making? What are you spending? And I'm like, you realize you're missing out on like $1,100 a month in cash back with how much you're spending? He's like, that much? I'm like, you haven't done the math, have you? He's like, no, that's a lot of money. I'm like, yeah, it is. That's a substantial amount of cash. And over the last 5 years, I mean, that's a down payment on an entire house, if not more, in free cash that you gave up. And he's like, I'm applying for a card right now.
But it also depends on the individual as well. Like, people who are not good at handling their money, like people who will just put anything on the credit card and everything. And
I was that person before.
So then for them, it's better not to have the card at all.
Yeah, you got to know yourself, right? It's kind of, and it's like with anything. It's like people who, if you know you have an addictive personality, maybe don't go to the casino, maybe don't have a cigarette, maybe don't drink alcohol, because if you have an addictive personality, you might not just do it once. You're probably going to overindulge. And so take a moment to identify yourself, like, who am I? And I know I have an addictive personality. Anything I do, I enjoy. I like to do a lot of it. So I just try to like limit what I do, because I enjoy life. And so if I do something, I'm going to enjoy it. And so it's like you just have to find that balance. And I've been, unfortunately, I've done the whole thing where you max out your credit cards. Done it twice. And had to pay it all off, and it was a bunch of stupid nonsense that I did not need to buy, and couldn't return any of it. So but you know, I learned my lesson. Thankfully, I was early 20s. You know, I learned my lesson. It's like, not doing that. There's no point. That was dumb. But yeah, no, you're right. It's you gotta be mindful with the credit card. It's not free money.
Right. The other thing about boredom, it's good to understand where can you invest. If you have that extra money, where can you invest it? Don't just throw it anywhere just because you're afraid it's going to be bored.
Yeah. I mean, if you're going to throw it anywhere, just throw it in Tesla. It's fine. Eventually it'll. But no,
I don't know.
But like, you got to do a modicum of research, at least a little. I mean, at a minimum, just throw it in an S&P 500, whatever. Just a low index fund, and people might be listening, going, "What's a low index fund?" Google it. I mean, that's the crazy part. Like we have every piece of information on planet Earth in our hands, in our phone. And we're not going to take 15 minutes to learn on how to invest any excess cash and let our money make us money. There are no excuses at this point. Like in today's society, there's no excuses as to why you are either just uninformed.
Yeah. So recently I listened to a book by Tony Robbins on money.
I was going to say, I definitely didn't.
Different Tony.
Yeah. A better one. Smarter one.
I highly recommend that book. I forget the title. It's something with money, something about money. Highly recommend it. It's very long, so I listened to it. Definitely want to go through it one more time, or at least one more time, or a few times. It talks about investing, all kinds of stuff, like really good advice. So
I'm going to do that. I'll look it up.
Yeah. All right, so let's continue on.
Next. Comp plan. Let me explain to you what I mean by comp plan. So no matter what country you live in, okay, I get emails from 100 plus countries around the world, and some of you guys and I talk through your communistic system, how you're upset, and you ask me what to do, and I tell you if it's not going to change, you have to leave. You have to leave a communistic regime you're a part of. Some of you are in socialistic places, France, taxes, Spain. You're upset with the taxes being at where it's at, and I tell you, if you don't see the horizon changing, you need to adjust. But regardless of where you're at, rule number one about your comp plan. Your comp plan in whatever country you live in is your taxes. Study how you get taxed, because that's your comp plan. And let me explain to you why the comp plan in America does so well. A lot of people say things like this. They'll say, you know what? I can't believe the tax structure in America benefits business owners. And why is it that they benefit business owners? Because business owners create jobs. If you created jobs, we'd give you a tax benefit. If there wasn't a tax benefit, an incentive for business owners, then who's going to create jobs for all these millions of people that need jobs? So you may say, well, Pat, if the incentives for business owners, shouldn't I be a business owner? Yes. Every single episode's about you becoming an entrepreneur. Yes, you ought to be a business owner. You ought to be an entrepreneur because it benefits you in your comp plan. It benefits you in your comp plan. And position yourself properly by knowing what your comp plan is. Rule number 10, end of the world mentality. Listen, CNN, MSNBC, Fox, Susie Orman, Dave Ramsey, whatever these names you want to go through, all of these names, put them all together. You know what they get paid to do? They get paid to sell crisis. Because if it happens, you got to be ready for it. Okay? And so what happens a lot of times is people get afraid. And they think it's the end of the world. And like that 2008, when the market crisis took place, the market went all the way down to 6,000 some, Dow Jones did. Everybody started pulling their money out. It's at $21,000 today, 21,000 points today. Imagine if you left the money in. How much compounding money was lost? Simply because you thought it was the end of the world. Simply because you thought there was a nuclear war that was going to happen all over the world. By the way, let me explain to you. If truly a nuclear war is going to happen, do you really think your money matters? Come on. We're not going to exist. So you got to act as if there's no nuclear war that's going to take place and panic so much when everybody tells you everything. And you got to learn how to manage those times when 90% of the world thinks it's the end of the world. You got to be ready. So how do you do that? Let me explain. I was part of the community that it's always the end of the world until I realized how you become wealthy is during this time. During this time when it's the end of the world, you know who wins? Those who have cash. This is why it's important to have cash set aside. And I'm not talking boredom money. I'm talking cash set aside when it's the end of the world for you to buy stuff. Every time crisis takes place, a lot of people become wealthy. A lot of people become wealthy because everything's on sale. Everything's on sale when there's crisis. People sell their exotics because they can't afford it. People sell their artwork for 1/5 of a price. Homes sell for 1/2 of a price. Investments, all these things is for sale during the time when there's the end of the world type of mentality. So you got to have a strategy for this time. Some say market's about to tank again in the next 2-3 years. I don't know if it is going to tank in the next 2-3 years. Here's what I do know. It's going to tank in the next 20 years, and I'm ready for it. I have to be ready for it because there's going to be opportunities. You also got to be ready for it. Number 11, study your politicians, especially your president. Let me explain to you why. You got to know what your politician and your local community is going to do and what their philosophies are. Here's why you need to know their philosophies. If their philosophy is to do heavy-duty taxing on you, you need to adjust accordingly. If their philosophy is to cut down taxes, you need to adjust accordingly. People ask me, Pat, what am I going to do with Trump? Start a business. Taxes are being cut. Go make your millions of dollars the next 4 years. And if it's 8 years, go make your money and adjust. Everything's about adjustment. But you can't not know what their philosophies are. You need to know the philosophies of the politicians in your community. Number 12, studies.
Yeah, so politics is another one of those where people kind of are either in it or not in it, right? Like, or just kind of talk about it but do nothing about it. Yeah. So that, and then what was the look? Can you switch back to the?
So we had the comp plan and then the end of the world.
Yeah,
and the end of the world mentality is interesting.
Definitely, like, and I've experienced it kind of in my family, my parents. So when we moved here from Ukraine, I don't know if it was like second year or third year, somebody mentioned that the US dollar is going downhill or something, and they started like almost like panicking, like, okay, what do you do with the dollar? You know, you want to like buy something because it's not going to be worth anything.
Right.
And it comes from kind of the USSR mentality and even others where the money did go to nothing.
Yeah.
Right. So like here, as soon as you hear something, people act on whatever information they have before, and then make bad decisions basically.
Yeah. Based on that.
So like, and there's all kinds of online personalities that preach the end of the world is tomorrow, like, and I don't mean from a Christian perspective. I mean from like like fear porn.
It's
kind
of like when Y2K happened. Like I was still pretty young, but I remember like Y2K. Like my parents, we had a garage full of canned foods and 1,000 gallons of water. My parents had no idea what's going to happen, but they heard bad things are going to happen. Prepare for it, and so. A good chunk of the world was like, we have no idea what's going to happen. Is there going to be a nuclear war or whatnot? And so people, kind of paused their life.
Yeah.
And thankfully, it didn't tank the economy completely. Because it's one of those things where it happens. Like you're talking about, right? The crash in 08. I mean, the amount of people that negatively reacted versus looking at it as an investment opportunity. Obviously, hindsight's 20/20, but it's like going through, and that's why knowing your history is so important too. Going through, any upcoming economical situations. Well, how do you handle it, right? Do you just approach it with, oh my gosh, it's gonna end, or hey, it's buying season,
right?
But I think it comes down to it can't be buying season for you if you don't have any money.
Exactly.
And so if you're constantly just barely surviving and you're not saving any money or investing any money and growing your net worth, when the stuff hits the toilet, when the economy really tanks and it is buying season for those who have cash, yeah, for you it's going to be terrible because you have nothing to buy, and so now you're just living off what little savings you have versus, okay, I set aside a chunk of money, now that property I was eyeing is no longer $500,000. They'll take $200 for it. Sold, I'll take it. Done deal. And now it's a bargain.
Right. So that that speaks to being ready, like not just reacting, living paycheck to paycheck, but actually doing something where you're saving, where you're preparing for those kind of times where then you can invest.
Yeah, I mean, it's, so for instance, there's a lady. I mean, and it's different, right? It's not real estate for everybody. It's different things. It's even buying businesses. I mean, there's a lady I think her name is Lauren Sanchez. I think, but I can't remember. Her name is Lauren something, and she talks about boring money. Her shtick on social media is boring money. She likes to buy laundromats and like car washes, storage units. She's like, it's not sexy money, it's not exciting, it's not a big old, it's not a car dealership, it's not some sort of fancy tech company. I like to buy boring companies. She's like, but those are easy to manage. Those are the ones where you only need like maybe one employee, and it makes money, and it's something that's always going to be in demand. People are always going to need vehicles washed. People are always going to need to wash their clothes, always going to need to park their stuff. And she said that right now you have like the boomer generation. So many of them are retiring, but what happened is they built up these companies that they never developed a leadership team. Not all of them, but a lot of them didn't develop a leadership team, and so they have an established company. They're making a ton of money, and they want to retire, but you can buy their company for pennies on the dollar because they don't have a structured company to sell you. They just have an existing client base. They got a lot of money. They got employees, but the guy's 67 years old. He's still working 90 hours a week. He's like, I just want to give up. I want to retire. I'm tired of it. That's an opportunity for you. It's like, hey, you can buy that company off of them if it's something you think you can take over, and then you can put your own team in place. And for that, you don't even need a ton of money. I mean, honestly, if you just have a business plan, you have some decent income, maybe a little bit saved up, and also good credit or excellent credit. And you could possibly even own or finance it maybe for a year or 5 years, whatever, then go to a bank. So you can be strategic about it versus everyone's thinking, I can't make a big purchase of a business or a property until I have $1 million in the bank. Like, you can probably do it with $20,000 in the bank. Not every business. You can't buy $1 billion business, but you can buy maybe a small car wash and you can work your way up. But again, if you're not ready for the opportunity, then you're gonna address these crises as like, well, it's a crisis, and you're just gonna react versus take advantage of the situation, essentially.
Right.
That's what I'm learning myself.
Yeah.
Smart investors, but don't be too religious about them. Like, for instance, you ought to read everything Warren Buffett's got. Read every single thing Warren Buffett's got. Every single thing. Read any of the books that he's got. Go read them, because what he's going to teach you is his way of thinking. His mindset. He's going to teach you the way he's thinking. Like some people said, why did Warren Buffett spend $35 million to buy silver 6 years ago? And why did he all of a sudden, why does he not do any technology and stays away with it? And why does he? These are philosophies. The thing that you got to respect about Warren Buffett, when he says, I don't do technology, he didn't do technology. So he stuck to a philosophy long enough until it worked. Study smart investors. Number 13, play your game. Don't compare. Let me explain. This is extremely problematic to a lot of people because let's just say on this doubles game, you're here. And let's just say your cousin is here. Why are you comparing yourself to him? You need to play your doubles game. Let's say you're here. Let's say your best friend is here. It's not the same game. He's 4 doubles ahead of you. It's not the same game. You just got to make sure you play your game. You can't say I'm going to play my game at the level of what the other guys are, because when you do it that way, you make reckless decisions and you lose a double. You don't want to lose doubles. You want to gain doubles. I don't know. I hope I'm making sense to you. You don't want to go backwards. And anytime you focus on this guy, you sometimes go backwards. Focus on your game. Focus on your strategies. Focus on your time horizon. Focus on your risk tolerance and play according to that game.
So with that, it goes back to comparison, right? Like when we compare ourselves to somebody else, some other business owner that's further ahead, it's like, maybe I can shortcut something to get to that level. And most of the times it doesn't work.
No.
It puts you back, like you mentioned. Instead of moving you forward, you lose things.
100%.
So
I've been guilty of it myself, where I compare, and people who maybe have been in business for less time than I have, but the level of success they've seen is, you could say, exponentially greater. And a part of you, can become maybe a little bit jealous, but you realize, well, first of all, it's a completely different industry. The scale of it is different. Everything's different. And again, I don't know how they started or what they do, right? I don't know. Did they start with 100 times more cash than me? Maybe they work twice as many hours as me. I don't know. So it's not fair, because if you do the comparison game, you can kill yourself. I mean, you can genuinely just like lose your mind, and you start getting insecure, you start getting jealous, and then you're no longer focused on your own doubles game. You're focused on someone else, and it's like, who cares? What they do has zero impact on you. Like, zero is not even the word, like none at all. Like, they don't matter to you. It is completely irrelevant. Focus on yourself, because this comparison, and that's just not in money, it's anything in life. You compare yourself with people, oh, they have a happy marriage, and you look at their Instagram reels, they're always vacationing, they're always this. Like, yeah, sure, maybe behind closed doors they could be 2 seconds away from a divorce. You don't know what's real, and that's why I'm a little bit not against, but I'm not a fan of social media these days anymore, because now it's just like a flex game. Let me flex on you and how great my life is, and now you're just constantly comparing. And so I try to primarily use social media only for work, because I mean, some personal stuff maybe I'll try to follow up, but I really despise Instagram. I get a million reels a day. My wife and friends, everyone's sending me things. I'm like, I don't want to click on it, because what'll happen is I know I'll go through Instagram and I'm just going to see everyone's highlight reel, and I know I'm going to do it during a time where I'm not having a good moment. And then I'm going to go, it's not fair. They're on vacation and they're in, Paris and this and that. And what am I doing? And it doesn't do any good. You just start getting down, unless you're a more mentally powerful person and you can say, I'm going to use that as motivation. I'm not that person. I just rather not see it. I just want to stay in my own lane, focus on what I want to focus on. And I'll use other people's success as inspiration. But if all I'm doing is just scrolling through and I see 1,000 people's success, it can be detrimental. It can be negative, versus looking at someone, hey, that guy bought a Bentley. Cool. Yeah. I want to buy a Bentley too. Like, that's the way I want to approach things, versus, or hey, they just took their family on a 7th vacation this year. That's awesome. I want to do that too. Like, how do I get there? Versus, oh, that must be nice. 7 vacations. We haven't even taken 1 yet. And it's like victim mentality, or do I use that to push myself to do better?
Right. But I think naturally it's the other one, right? For most people, that's why there's a lot of issues with youth and so on, where they compare themselves to these highlight reels that may not be even real.
Yeah. And now it's beyond that. Now it's like AI generated.
Yeah.
It's not even a real person anymore. It's just like a digital image, and it's like you're comparing yourself to literal fake stuff.
And AI, yeah. So
it's wild.
Your vision may not be to be a billionaire. Your vision may not be to go out there and do something very big. Your vision may not be to be a person that's got 150 million bucks. Your vision may not be to be a decamillionaire. Your vision may be, I want to one day have $2 million. That's all good. Play to that game and put a plan next to it. Play to that game, but don't constantly compare yourself to other people. Okay, next, index. A lot of people say, well, as long as you beat the index. Okay, as long as you beat the index. I am more concerned of beating my goals than I am about beating the index. I'm not worried about beating the index. I'm worried about beating my goals. What is my goal? What is the deadline? I want to beat that number, because it's mine. That's what I'm committed to. What is my deadline? I'm committed to this. I'm not committed to the index. I'm committed to this. Maybe I need to do a lot more than what the index is doing, because this is why I'm in business. In business, I can control the amount of growth I'm going to have on my income. I can't control if I'm studying just the index and the index is going 11.9%. I beat it 2.3%, but that's going to take me a long time for me to get over here. No. Play your game. Beat your goals instead of trying to beat the index only. 15, befriend moneymakers. I'll tell you why befriend moneymakers that you trust. If you're around other people that know how to make money, you're going to make money. It's just kind of how things work out. If you're around people that know how to make money, you're generally going to make money. If you're around people that don't even know how to make money or don't even make a lot of money, you're not going to make a lot of money. So know who you're going into business with, know who you're doing things with. Sometimes things seem too sweet or sexy and all this stuff, but you don't know the person. I don't touch any of that stuff. It's important for me to know who I'm going to be doing business with. I hire very slowly, very slow. I fire very fast. The moment I'm done with somebody, boom, gone. 4 people we fire in a day, no problem. I can't do this. The tolerance is not in the right place. We can't do this. We need to move on. But I hire slowly, especially the higher up it is. The more I travel with the person to get to know them. Same exact thing when it comes down to here. Whoever you're going to do business with, befriend them. Travel with them. If somebody's extremely wealthy, go to dinner with them. Get to know their wife. See how they are around their kids. Kind of see their standards of living. See their discipline. See their behavior. And then say, I like this person. I like what their friends say about him. I like how his cousin talks. I like how this is a person I can do money and business with. Number 16. Diversification is for absolute sissies, okay? So if you're a sissy and your risk tolerance is very low, it's okay. It's okay to be a sissy. A lot of people are sissies. But if you truly want to create wealth and you're wondering why in your lifetime you've worked for 17 years and you don't have a single penny and you've made $617,000, yet you only have $6,000 to show for it, there's a problem there. There's a problem there. What is the problem? Diversification is a great concept to sell for these expert financial advisors that are playing every single thing safe and all these other things. Yes. Now, for those of you that are watching this and you're 73 years old, diversification may be good for you if you already have hit your goal of $6 million and you're where you're at. You're 62 years old. I respect the fact that you've already hit your numbers. That's solid. Risk tolerance lower, time horizon lower. Okay, you're playing a different game. I'm talking mainly for the people that are in the offensive mode of their lives, that you're trying to get here. Maybe you're around this market. I'm not talking to the people that are here. I'm talking to the people that are here. You're trying to get your doubles to go quickly, faster. If you just rely on diversification, 20, 30, 40 years, well, then you just got to know that it's going to take 40 years. It's going to take 30 years. Maybe. That's if everything goes the way it's supposed to be going. So I don't recommend just relying on diversification to take you to where you want to get to. 17. The game is about leverage. Everything.
So I wanted to kind of point out the people you're around, right, matters a lot. Because if you're around people who, who are scared of money, or money scares them, or whatever the case is, who are not kind of like mentally doing things to enhance their life and so on, then you kind of become, there's a saying, right? You're the average of the 5 people that you hang around most of. So I think it's similar point with this.
It's exactly the same. Yeah. And it kind of sounds a little bit crass, maybe saying if all your friends are broke, you're going to be broke, but it's a reality, and I would never advocate for anyone to be like, yeah, abandon your friends in favor of rich friends. But it's if your goal is, I want to be in a better place financially. I want to achieve a goal that I don't know how to achieve. Be intentional, again, with who you spend your time with. Well, okay, so if you want to hit a goal of whatever, I want $5 million in the bank by the time I'm 45. Okay, well, are your friends going to help you there? No, not saying abandon your friends, but like he said, be around people who can help you achieve that. It's mentorship, it's friendship, right? So like what I've done in my life, what I've helped me be successful is, if I want to be a better person, I am friends with people who I think are, naturally I've been friends with the same people, but thankfully they're people who encourage me to be better in terms of a family man, in my faith. And if I want to make more money, so what I did, so for instance, when I joined our franchise, I had my repair shop, and then we converted to the franchise CPR. And what I did was, I was barely making it. I was making some money, but not really. And so they had something called the leaderboards, and every single week you could see who were the top 25 stores in the network. And I'm just like, whoa, those stores are producing like 100 times more than me. That's insane. Instead of being, man, that's so, they're so lucky, I immediately asked whoever I could, how do I get in touch with these people? Who owns those stores? I want to know who owns these stores. And so I called them. I texted them, found their information. I called them. Hey, my name's Tony. I'm new to the franchise. I see you own X store. You're crushing it. I'd love to see if you could give me some pointers. And 6 years later, we're all friends. And now my store's in the top 25 too. And it's just like, and at one point actually I think we hit number 1 at one point. But that's hard to maintain in this industry. But it's like, it was cool. Like I feel like one of the only reasons why, because I intentionally went out of my way to seek out the top 25 and became a top 25. And so it's just simple. If you want to be a certain way, you just have to be, again, it all comes down to intentionality.
Right. And it doesn't have to be about money. But I think what it has to be is about people who want to grow, who want to continually to change in a positive way.
Be a better person.
Not to just stay where you are and just be like, this world sucks, so I'm going to do nothing about it.
Yeah, if you want to be, let's say you want to be a selfless person and you want to, let's say you want to be more involved in ministry. Well, what are you going to do? You're going to involve yourself and surround yourself with people who are in ministry. You're going to befriend the pastor. You're going to befriend people who are serving. You're not going to not go out of your way. You're not going to sit in the back of the church and then as soon as church is over, you're like, hey man, boom, book it out of there. No, you're going to stick around. You're going to maybe talk to people who, and it's intentionality. Right. Whatever you want. If you want to better your life in any way, if you want to be a better parent, maybe go first of all, talk to people that are older, talk to people who at least seem like they have a good marriage. I mean, obviously I would start with the pastor, because right, a pastor and deacons have some really high standards according to the Bible. They're super high standards, right? Don't be drunk, don't get angry, don't do XYZ. So, okay, so, if, and you don't know if they are or not, but if they're going and following by the rules that are laid out for them, those are really great examples. You should seek them out if you want to be a better parent, a better spouse, a better friend. Let me seek out the people who should be the example in my church, and then you can identify if they are or not. But like, that's, be intentional. Like, that's why so one of my best friends, his dad's a deacon, and we meet all the time. We talk all the time. In fact, we have monthly prayer services. So like after church, we go to someone's house, we have a big dinner. Family and friends come over, we have dinner, and then for like 45 minutes, we just have a brief discussion about faith, and we have a topic for that week. And so we're having that again this Sunday, and it's just like, yeah, intentionality. I'm going to surround myself with people who want to grow too, who want to be a better person in general. And it's like, I think sometimes we overcomplicate things in life.
Yeah.
How do I become better? Read a book. Yeah, read a book, but also be around people who you want to be.
Yeah. Yeah.
Is leverage. Now let me explain what leverage means. I'm not saying leverage go into debt with everything. I'm not talking leverage like that. I'm talking leverage period. What could leverage be? Leverage your business. How can you grow your business if you're running a business? How can you leverage to have more support? How can you leverage to sell more? How can you leverage to expand more? How can you leverage to increase the value of your business more? How can you leverage to market yourself more? How can you leverage to get to the customer faster? How can you leverage to increase the speed of growth of your business? How can you leverage to get certain things going? How can you leverage? Everything is a leverage game. Everything is a leverage game. And the more you study the concept of leverage and the game, how it works, the better it is for your wealth. Number 18, positioning. Positioning has to do with, for instance, I'll tell you what positioning is. We can do a whole thing on positioning, but I'm just going to give it to you in a shorter sense. Positioning. If I'm going to go work at a company and I'm going to have a piece of the equity and I'm going to position myself to own a piece of that company and it's going to go public, that's smart positioning. That's very, very smart positioning. Tom over here, who's our president, Tom created his wealth by positioning. He went and positioned himself in certain places and participated in the victory by owning a piece, and he positioned himself. Sometimes it's positioning. Sometimes it's who you're running with. A lot of times people say, wow, I'm making great income with this company I'm at. Yeah, but you haven't positioned yourself yet because there's no back end on the equity. So it's positioning. You got to also position yourself here to make sure you're taking care of that part, right? Of course, you got to take care of your credit. You got to have high income, savings, investments, but you got to make sure you position yourself properly as well. Number 19, strategic partnerships. Strategic partnerships. The more you can create an environment, it's kind of similar to befriend moneymakers, but this is slightly different because it's intentional. If you can figure, like what we do with our company, is we have strategic partnerships where a lot of people make money, okay? The more people make money, the more people continue to do business with you if there's strategic partnerships. I have strategic partnerships with $400 billion companies, $200 billion companies, $60 billion companies. I have strategic partnerships with a lot of different companies that benefits them, okay? Strategic partnership increases the value of making money because a lot more people are making money with you when they go into business with you. And last but not least, big checks.
Alex Hormozy said something very similar. Where one thing he said, it probably stuck out to me more than most of anything. He was, the easiest way to make money is by making other people money.
Mm-hmm.
So if I'm going to help you or bring you on as a client or I want to work with you, if I'm going to help you make money, you're going to have no problem paying me. But if I'm offering a service and I'm not really helping you make money, it's difficult to get money from you. Because people don't want to pay for like organization, or I'm going to help you organize your company. They're like, yeah, but can you help me make money? I'm going to make things easier. It's a harder sale than I'm just going to, hey, listen, you give me $500, I'm going to help you make 5,000. Like, yeah, you're 10x my money. Cool, great.
Right.
That's exactly what that is. It's just, if you look at it from that way, like, how do I do things? Well, how do you help them make money? How do you help your clients make more money? That's what we do. Like with our software company, the idea was, okay, well, how do we make it where we just help our clients make more money? What can we do? And then it ended up being strategic partnerships with certain vendors and this and that, and kind of coming together with, how do we produce a product that helps the client make money versus just being a means of data entry? Because that's what we do. Like, we have a point of sale. So all point of sale companies, it's a data entry. You put in your customer data, inventory, cool. okay, well, but the name is point of sale. You make the sale there, so it should help you make sales. So I'm like, how do we help make sales? And so you do that, and all of a sudden people are like, oh my gosh, that's great. It's like, yeah, because everyone, if you're in business, I mean, you're there to make money. And so, yeah, easiest way to help them make money.
And I like watched your live, at least a portion of it, where you were talking about that insurance. So definitely, like, you're following these rules without even knowing about them.
Yeah. This is the first time I've seen it. I'm like, it's funny because I mean, it's you know, everyone. I think all these famous guys, you know, Patrick Bet-David, and Alex Hormozi, and anyone in between. Effectively, they're saying the same thing. They're just their own way of saying it.
Right.
You know, like him with the board and how he calls these things like boredom and this and that. Like, he's gamifying it in his own way. He's gamifying it. He's making it where it catches your attention, and you're like, wait a second, what does he mean by that? And on that note, it's funny. Like, I was thinking about that while he was talking about it, and I'm like, that's a interesting way of saying what he said. It's he's saying it in a way where you kind of are waiting for him to address that number. You're like, what does he mean by that? And it reminds me of years ago when Stephen Furtick had a sermon. I remember one time we went to Elevation Church and ended it with, and come back next week, we're going to have our biggest series yet, where it's called Jesus Should Not Be First in Your Life. And I'm like, I'm already familiar with Stephen. I'm like, I know he's got something up his sleeve. I'm like, but I'm so curious what he's trying to say. Man, the media blew up. Like local media, like local, you know, mega church pastor says Jesus shouldn't be first in your life. And it was just crazy, the amount of like hate he got and the attention he got, ton of attention. We came to church that next Sunday, packed to the brim, overflow. I mean, it was full. He goes, yeah, so starting the sermon, Jesus should not be first in your life. He should be at the center of everything. And, you know, it's just getting people's attention. So he shouldn't be first. Everyone's like, what are you talking about? Like, you know, crucify him. And he's like, no, you should be at the center of everything. Everything you do, Jesus should be there. And everyone's like, And it's just like the same thing, like getting your attention. You know, what he said wasn't wrong per se. Wasn't right, but it wasn't wrong. And it was enough to get you to go, what is that? So it's just interesting to see PBDs doing the same thing. You know, like boredom and seduction. Money should be seduced. You're like, what are you talking about?
Right.
And it's smart. It's in his own way, he's gamifying it. And so all these influencers have their own way of doing it. And I think it's something that anyone can apply to their own life. You know, it's you put your twist on it. You can say the same thing someone else is saying. It's just you're saying it a different way. You got your own personality, and like I have my own personality. I'm a lot more rambunctious, you could say. I like to talk. I like to be loud. It's fun. That's just who I am. But I'll say the same things as some dude who might be timid. It's just, you know, you're going to have a different audience, and because again, people are different, and you're going to connect differently with them. And so I think the sooner people recognize that, the less they'll be judgmental against someone, right? Whether it's an influencer or a business owner or their own family members, you know, or friends even. They're different. And maybe that person's style of communication isn't your style. And that's okay. Doesn't mean they're wrong. It's just their style of communication doesn't flow with your communication.
Yeah, and there's three aspects to the message. There's the actual message, what is being communicated.
Right.
There's the style, how, or the emotions that it generates, and then who's communicating it.
Yeah. At the end of the day, it's kind of like, you know, maybe not the same thing, but it's almost like denominations within the Christian faith. I'm against denominations as a whole, but it's almost like you have different denominations. But at the end of the day, if the core things are the same, you know, you love Jesus all your heart and you believe in him, you know, the path to heaven is the same. You believe in the same, you know, just everything, like the core gospel. If you're in agreement there, everything else, I'm not a fan of it being different. But if it doesn't impact your salvation, it is what it is. As long as the core fundamentals of salvation of the gospel are the same, that's the key thing. If those aren't the same, if your core is different, that's when you have a problem. But if you're just portraying a message a little bit different, maybe use a little bit different language, as long as it's obviously not like bad language, and as long as you're not obviously inciting people to do bad things, then whatever, it is what it is. It's just a little bit different.
Yeah.
Syndrome. Let me tell you what the big check syndrome is. Oh my gosh, I've seen so many people screw this whole thing up, and I'll just explain to you what it is. So, for instance, say you are doing a real estate, hypothetically, okay? And all of a sudden, you get, this one client wants you to sell their home. It's a $3 million home. I'm just throwing numbers out there. And you go and sell this $3 million home, and the check is $100 and some thousand that you get. And you say, oh my gosh, I made $100,000. And for 2 months, You live as if you made $100,000 in a month. What you don't realize is that $100,000 check in a month, you need to look at it as an $8,300 a month income for that year. That's what that means. It's not $100,000. And I've seen so many people who treat this as $100,000 in a month, and they get cocky, arrogant, all this stuff, and then they go back to right here. And their double goes lower and lower and lower. And they don't realize it's just a big payday. Let me explain. Would you rather have, right now, a $500,000 cash I give you? Watch this question, you're going to answer. Would you rather take a $500,000, okay, given to you, up front I'm going to give you $500,000, or would you rather take an income stream, guaranteed, okay, of $100,000 over 20 years? Which one would you take? $500,000 up front, $100,000 over 20 years. Which one would you take? You know what, believe it or not, most people will say, well, I think the right answer is $100,000. Most people would take the $500,000. Let me tell you why the $100,000 allows you to do more. The $100,000 is $2 million. The $500,000 is $500,000. See, this gives me the opportunity to have a stronger backing to make bigger decisions to get bigger doubles. Now you may say, Pat, but $500,000, that already puts me here. It's irrelevant if you don't know how to play the money game. It's irrelevant if you don't know how to play the money game. I want high income as well. I want income coming in that feeds my game so I can increase my net worth. This is a very, very important game. So don't get too crazy about big check syndrome and all of a sudden fall for it and lose everything that you got, because it can totally mess up with your net worth and you work all the way back to your doubles. So with that being said, this is what I want to do to you. This episode is obviously an episode that people would want to look at on a PDF. So we're going to give you a free.
So that's pretty much it to this episode. But yeah, what did you think overall?
I give him, first I will say, I give him respect for it's like 20 something minutes of just consistent, like staying on it. You know, there was no cuts and edits. So you see a lot of people when they do videos, it's like cuts and edits because obviously they have to pause and redo things. That was one straight shot. So I give him props on that. At a minimum, give him props on that.
There was one edit at least I saw in there, but
I didn't notice. Okay, I'm bad at this then. But overall, right? Overall, it's pretty good. But I do like what he said at the end, right? Where it's kind of like that whole situation where you think, if I won the lottery, you know, that $1 billion lottery, what am I gonna do? Do I take a lump sum or do it, you know, annuity payments and just enjoy a smaller amount, but more than enough for the rest of my life? And so many people are like, you know, just give me the lump sum, man. I'm going to invest it in this and that. But it's like you do the math, like based on the additional fees they take out and this and that, you would have to be like a Warren Buffett level investor to make more than that annuity. Mm-hmm. But then the flip side is you have to trust that the government's going to keep on giving you that check every year. That's my conspiracy side is like, I don't trust they're going to pay me out. One day they might just stop, and what am I going to do? Yeah. Like I might fight it, I might win, I might not. I would just take the lump sum for that reason. But as far as like, you know, making money, I mean, unless you're like a genuine disciplined investor, or you have great ideas, you have businesses, you're a proven individual, sure, then take the lump sum. But if you're not, just take the smaller amount, man. It's just a safer bet.
Plus, like you mentioned, the doubles. Every level, you learn something of how to continue stepping to the higher and higher level. If you skip those levels, you haven't really learned those disciplines. So a lot of people who win the lottery, they go broke.
Yeah, I think it's like over 90% of them or something like that go broke within 5 years because I mean, you know, it's kind of like, all right, cool, your entire life you've never made more than $47,000 a year, and all of a sudden, you know, you have millions. You're likely not going to spend it well.
Right.
You're going to buy things you wanted to buy, and then you accidentally make a mistake of buying a boat or a plane and not realizing there's maintenance fees that will overcome or actually be greater than the actual purchase itself over time. Yeah. And people don't really consider that. And then, you know, all of a sudden you got family crawling out of the woodwork. Hey, remember that one time I lent you money and, I need, you know, I'm sick, give me 20 grand. And you hear those sob stories all the time. People are just like, please help me. And 3 years in, they're like, oops, I'm out. Yeah. And it's just like, if I were to ever win, I'd probably, knowing myself, I wouldn't be able to. I have a big mouth, but I would like to keep it a secret and be like, hey, nope. You don't know.
You just there will be signs, right?
Yeah, I'm a billionaire and you don't know. Yeah, if only.
So great having you on here. Any final thoughts you want to share? Anything?
I said a lot. No, I appreciate having me on. It was great. I mean, this is fun. You know, it's one of those things or two where I guess what I could say is people that might be watching, especially those maybe within the Slavic community, be like, they talk so much about money. It's like, yeah, it was about money. Money is a big part of our lives, and it's one of those things where it's a tool. It's a tool we can use to push ahead, to help other people, to help our family, or it can be something you can be enslaved to. And one thing I've learned is you'll notice you see poor people talk about money more than rich people. And they'll do more things with money in mind because they want money, and it's like money, 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 money. And a wealthier person is oftentimes at least less inclined to talk about money because they have it. They don't have to worry about it. They're not stressing about it. They can just kind of do the other things in their life. But like all things, it's a balance, right? The whole purpose of this is just, let's talk about money. Let's talk about some strategy and hopefully get someone to open up their mind. I definitely had some mind-opening experiences. I do like the idea of gamifying your life's plans. And I guess I could, if I were to ever, it's one of those cliche sayings, if there's one thing I'd leave you with, but I think for anyone watching, if you're not doing that, I think that's an important piece, is just, it doesn't have to be in a whiteboard, but just write down goals. Like, what do you want? Okay, so if you want to retire, what does that look like?
Right.
Are you in a certain city, a village? Are you in a house? Are you living it up on a yacht? I mean, realistically, write it down, and then now you can figure out how do we get there, because you have to figure out, you're going to need X amount of dollars to get there. Okay, now how do you earn X amount of dollars? We're starting with $2,000 to our name, or we're starting with $17,000 to our name. How do we get to the double game? How do we get to the point where we can live that lifestyle? So yeah, that's an important thing. It's one of those things where, it's easy to not do in today's world, right? We're so busy. Yeah. It's a never-ending cycle of busyness. And then, but to take an hour or two to sit down and just figure out your future shouldn't be that difficult. But apparently it is for a lot of people, and it is for me. And I think it's one of those things I definitely want to change, because it's important, right? It's money is an important part of life, but it shouldn't be life. It should be a tool to enhance all the areas of your life. If you want to eat high quality foods, you need money, right? Otherwise you're going to eat ramen noodle, which it might be tasty, but it's not exactly good for your body. And it's like, I would rather eat something better. I would rather have a reliable vehicle, a safe vehicle for my kids, for my wife, etc. Some people, again, coming from our background, they can look at money as like you said, it's the love, it's the root of all evil. It's the love of money. And I'm not loving money. I just want to have, I want more of it. That's all. I just want more. That's it. I just want more. That's all.
You want to be able to utilize it properly.
You want to utilize it. Yeah, there are different things you can do with it. Absolutely. Because God knows, He knows there's so many people out there that don't have it and are incapable of earning more. Not even counting the people in third world countries, but just in our own country, people who are, they're sick, disabled, whether it's physical, mental, or veterans who are, ignored by our government. And there's so many people out there that genuinely need help, and it sucks to not be in a position where you can help or impact them substantially. Where it's like, oh yeah, here's $5. Like, so I'm living and doing all this stuff and busting my butt and doing all this, and the best I can do is here's a $5. I can't. Wow, I got you half a meal. You're almost not hungry. And it's like kind of crazy. Like it's such a small impact. And again, what if you're a person who you can't earn more money? Maybe you are physically handicapped or whatever. You got some sort of illness, a reason you can't earn more. Doesn't mean this is not applicable to you. You can still be impactful. You can pray for people. You can serve in some manner. Maybe let's say you can't go to the homeless shelter and serve. Okay, maybe you can be in a prayer team at church. Maybe you can be a greeter. Maybe you can. I've seen even people go on what's it called? That's that website.
Fiverr,
what's that?
Fiverr or
not Fiverr. That or yeah, so you have a skill like art, but I mean even crazier. There's this one website, I think Omegle or whatever. It's a suspicious website where people just go and you randomly chat people. But I've seen like reels on Facebook of people like Christians going on there, and when every person they encounter, they preach the gospel to them. They play music for them. They talk to them. They're a light in a very, very, very dark website, which I don't recommend. Don't go there if you're underage. But like there's some weird people out there, but there are Christians out there that will use their talent for the good. So it doesn't have to be just about money, because some people might listen and be like, I can't make it because I have X disability. It's fair. But the Bible does say if you are a able-bodied man you should earn, you should provide. Bible does say, I think Paul said it to the Colossian church, or Ephesus, I can't remember which one, but he said, like, a man, basically to paraphrase, an able-bodied man who does not work and provide for his family is worse than a sinner. He's like, that's just embarrassing. Like, flat out, you are an embarrassment to your family. So if you're not sick, and when I say sick, being overweight doesn't count, by the way. Like, I'm going to put that right out there. Oh, I have thyroid issues. You're also consuming 6,000 calories a day. Maybe you should consume 1,600, consume less than you should, and lose some weight. You're not disabled. You're just lazy. Like, I wanted to say that for so long because I have so many people in my life that have that excuse, but then I know other people who do have thyroid issues and they're not overweight substantially because they're very, very meticulous about their diet. Mm-hmm. And so people always want to use an excuse. Well, I can't do XYZ because of this. And it goes back to what I said in the very beginning. It's like, you're limiting yourself. You're putting this limiter on yourself by labeling yourself a bad thing. And then you're not allowing God to work through you. Overweight or sick or healthy, it doesn't matter. You are on this earth for a purpose, and your purpose is to help your fellow man. Your purpose is to be a light. Your purpose is to be helpful, to be loving, to help people. And helping is different for everybody. And maybe you can't help every day, right? Maybe you're having an off day, and that is what it is. But to have this victim mentality of, oh, I can't do it because of this reason, like, that's an excuse, and it's laziness. You know, like my mom, for those of you who are watching and you know, like, she lost her husband and she had her second stroke that affected the second half of her body, and at one point she was completely paralyzed. Should have died because she's had diabetes for the last 15 years, 20 years, high blood pressure, all these issues, dealing with the grief of a loved one, and survives it. And now she's walking, you know, with a walker, but still. Like, she shouldn't have lived. And so, like, of all the people that can complain, it's probably going to be the lady who lost her husband, who took care of her like it was his own body for the last 15 years because she was disabled, who has all these illnesses. But guess what? She gets up, she works out, she prays for her kids, she talks to people. She's trying to live life with purpose, even though she's limited. So it's like, well, if a disabled person can do it, you can do it. Your eating habits are not a disability, and your lack of money isn't a disability. You can earn more money. You can eat healthier. You can work out. It's just intentionality. You can spend less time on social media. You can play less video games. You can watch less TV. You can be more active. Those are all things. You know, it's just, they're all choices. So anyway, it's like all of it is a choice.
That reminds me of a book by Viktor Frankl. I think it's something to do with purpose or meaning of life. I think something related to meaning of life.
Yeah.
Where he describes going through the Holocaust, and there were people who they kind of gave up on life, and shortly after they died. Yeah. And those who mentally did not give up on life, for the most part, those are the ones that survived. So it all starts inside. So, like, really taking care of your mind, I think, is very, very important, because that's from there.
It's a perspective thing, right? Like, that's why. I'll say it might be a little bit controversial, Stephen Furtick, but one thing I will say is he's had many sermons about perspective, and he's used biblical examples of just perspectives can be everything. You know, you can feel a certain way, think a certain way, but just because you feel and think a certain way doesn't make it reality. And it could be reality, but you can just change how you look at it, just change your angle. And, you know, if you change, like, if you look at me from this side versus this side, all of a sudden I'll look different. Isn't that weird? I'm the same person. You know, you look at from behind, it's different. And so it's that with everything in life, is people will look at a situation and go, oh, this is terrible because whatever reason, right? This person hurt me. This, you know, my boss yelled at me. My kids don't listen to me. It's like, yeah, okay, well, what's your reaction? Because you still can impact that. You have the ability to make a change, you know, in anything in life. While there's breath in your lungs, there's a chance. And it's not going to be easy, but who in the world said life's going to be easy? You know, and it goes back to, like, social media, where if you spend enough time on social media, you can fall into that victimhood mentality because you're like, well, look at them, it's not fair. That may not be reality. We don't know what's reality for them. You know, you see the Kardashians and their private boats and their private planes, cool. But again, you know, first of all, who cares? Second of all, is it reality? I don't know. It's a reality TV show. Is it really? I mean, and then it's not to say they don't have their own problems. Even if they have wealth, that's only one aspect of life. Money is only one thing, and it's not even a major thing. It's a tool to enhance the rest of
you
your
can
life.
look at that like, okay, they have wealth, but what about their relationships? Like
Divorce after divorce after
Right,
divorce.
like-
They're not happy.
yeah.
And yeah, I mean, it's just, and they're just trying to, and it's not just them, it's anybody like that. It's all of us. We try to fill voids in our lives with things. So whether it be money, whether it be any sort of thing that is either maybe even illegal or immoral, we're filling things in our lives that at the end of the day, it's that cliche saying, it's a God-shaped hole, but it is a God-shaped hole. And, I think the world is seeing a revival. I think you're seeing a lot of that happen where you see celebrities, and even here, Russell Brand apparently converted to Christianity.
There was a few.
And it's crazy, but you see the comments on some. I just saw a video of his, and the comments are like, "Oh, Russell, another addiction of yours. When will you get over this one?" And it's just crazy. Like, people are so vindictive. They're so negative. Like, here's a guy who claims and says that, "Hey, I have turned my life around. I don't want to sin anymore. I want to live a holy life. I want to pursue a righteous God, a holy God, a just God." And they're mocking him. They're like, "Oh, you're going to get out of this one. This is just another phase of yours. You're an addict." And it's like, I really hope he doesn't read those comments, because that's crazy. And the fact that that's your reaction to someone wanting to better themselves. I'm trying to do it better. I'm trying to be a better person. I'm trying to earn more money. I'm trying to go to the gym and get healthy. I'm trying to do good for myself. And people's reaction is, "Ha, you're dumb for doing so." It's like, those are the people I wouldn't want to surround myself with. And that's where it comes to, and that's where I think a part of it, social media, again, is just toxic, or can be toxic.
Right.
It can be very useful, but it can be toxic if you're not careful, and there are toxic people everywhere in life.
And it goes back to the 5 people, right? And the saying that goes, misery loves company, right? Like, so miserable people want to bring down somebody else so they can be miserable with them.
Yeah, they're either going to take you down or bring you up with them. I'll probably end it with this. My best friend's brother, he, years ago, gosh, this was probably 20 years ago, he was a young kid. He was maybe like 17 years old, 16 years old, and he went through a revival period in his life, and on fire for God. And he's like, I want to be an evangelist. I'm gonna preach to everybody, and he was. And then he got a little bit arrogant, a little cocky, and he's like, I'm gonna go to a bar or a club, and I'm gonna go preach to them that they should convert at like a bar. And let's just say all of a sudden the next 5 years of his life wasn't a Christian life. It was the bar life. It was the club life. And what they told me was like an example is as if like you're standing on this table here, and if you're doing that type of thing, you're going to go into the pit and you're going to try to grab people out of it. You're on top of this table, and then they're on the ground. Who's going to pull each other easier? Who has more leverage? And it's like, it's not to say it's impossible, but it's not the smartest thing to do. Yeah. You shouldn't live that life. Not to say Christians can't go out into dangerous areas of the world and preach the gospel, but you got to think through what you're doing. You got to plan accordingly. And it's also same thing with money and anything in life. You can't just go off the deep end with no plan and just be like, all right, my risk tolerance is unlimited, and then just completely gamble it away and throw it all on black. And it's like, oh man, it hit red. Oops. Like, you got to plan a little bit. You have to think it through. But it was just an interesting analogy for sure.
Definitely. Well, Tony, thanks again.
Yeah, Jerry, thanks so much for having me.
Let's keep doing this.
We'll do it again.
So often.
Give us another 6 months.
There you go.
Thank you.
All right, sounds good. Yeah, thanks.